All right, brothers and sisters, welcome to All Politics are Local, America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. Well, listen, y'all know if it is Friday, and y'all know it's the second Friday, y'all know it's time for the vote. So we're gonna have some folks up tonight, coming up at 6 o'clock. We'll talk to a sister who is gonna Felicia Simmons, who's going to be up, and we're going to talk with her tonight about the Echelon Odyssey. Brother Zaid will probably come on and give really some of the background of that. Peace, Brother
Peace,
Zaid.
brother Zach. Hey, I'm sorry. I was just making some adjustments in the background. Yeah, Felicia and Elorm, Ocansey, um, Whitesboro, a forgotten all-black town that was created in the aftermath of the massacre in Wilmington, Delaware in 1900. That actually was the last violent overthrow of Reconstruction. And the town was named after George White. All of these folks were pushed out of North Carolina into Jersey, and it's a whole preservation effort to maintain that town. That's happening. It's a small town, but it's a great story. Look, they should be on any minute.
All
All
right,
right.
and then
And
coming
then
up
coming
6:30,
6:30,
uh,
uh,
we're going to
we're
be
gonna be
Reverend
Reverend
Conrad.
Con.
So he's
So
going to
we
be
can
at
get
6:30. And
and
then we
then
got
we got
coming up at 7. I
I
think you
think you
muted.
muted. Yeah. Let me see. Jonathan has got an incredible. Can you hear me? Yeah. I know we should have LaMonica McIver from City Council talk about this new development around ordinancing of 16-year-olds being allowed to vote in school board elections. And another step of the continued democratization of this society in spite of the fascist threat. Um, uh, Congressman Payne should be coming on after that. And there's somebody, I do not have the name in front of me, but um, Jonathan has somebody else I think also supposed to come on and talk about the vote as well. And of course, we wrap up with DJ Rhino and all things in the land of hip hop that are recent. Erica,
Sorry.
as for Erica, I'm sorry, it's
Yeah,
Erica Sklar. Yeah, she's an organizer around the Domestic Employers Network. Jersey just passed a domestic workers bill. It's one of the bills that got passed in the lame duck session to give some additional worker protections for domestic workers. So that's the context that'll take place on. Look at it. We can see y'all in the car. So yeah, it's Erica Sklar that'll be coming on for that particular segment, right? And they just popped in. Two young people I'm very proud of. This is Felicia Simmons and Elorm Ocansey from the Whitesboro Historic Preservation Project. Welcome, y'all. What's happening? How are we feeling?
We're
We
feeling all
feeling all
right.
right.
We're
We
feeling all
feeling all
right.
right.
Yeah,
now,
can't complain.
now, this is a teaching platform, so I want y'all to take your time and break down this history. I just gave you the short history very quickly, but I want y'all to take your time and do it. But way of introduction, I want to say something about each of you because I want folks to appreciate who each of you are. I just got an article that I sent around, and I just sent it to you too, Felicia, on the victory that we just had with the Seabrooks um, Washington bill, the mental health crisis bill, right? And Felicia is a resident and an organizer in the town of my father's family. Well, I was actually born down that way. She's down in Asbury Park, right? And organizers from Asbury on down and Asbury on up. Far up as Elizabeth and as far south as this town in Ocean County called Whitesboro. She's a force within the National Action Network. She shook some white folks up in that gentrifying town that we both share. when she ran for council a while ago. Very proud of Felicia. She testified last week in support of this bill and lifted up a forgotten story in this whole struggle, the story around Hassani Betts, right? And of course, Hassani and his former partner, Kay White, are very dear to us. And so I really appreciate this young woman's leadership. And this young man is one of the most modest uh, clergy I have ever met. The black preacher, male, female, young or old, has a way of letting everybody know they in the room. But this young man, who also is, can move around throughout the state making some noise on a lot of fronts, has something that's hard to teach. And I want you to hear me good, Elorm. I want you to appreciate what I'm about to say about you. Has something that's hard to teach, that's very important for those of all you folks who so-called leaders, right? That is something called grace. He's got that naturally. He's got a humility that is hugely becoming. And he too has been a force on a number of fronts with the NAACP and on this bill most recently. And both of them are together helping this town preserve it and our people down there preserve a very rich legacy. So I want to, welcome you and bring you into the conversation by bigging you up in the way that I think you ought to be lifted up, right? So come on in. Tell us about the Whitesboro Historic Preservation. Whitesboro, I ain't never heard of no Whitesboro, New Jersey. Heard Atlantic City, Yeah, Bordentown, a lot of us used to go to prison in Bordentown. But after that, I don't know all them little towns in Jersey.
Well,
Well,
um,
like, amen.
amen.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
for
the
the
opportunity.
Hey, Saeed,
Saeed,
just put your
put your
thing on
thing
mute.
on mute.
So when
So
y'all
when y'all
you just mute.
mute.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak and share some thoughts about Whitesboro. Um, I don't even know where to start, but I'll go back to 1901. I wasn't around back then. I just learned about the history through a lovely lady called Miss Shirley Green. And a couple years ago, I started in this work as a housing organizer, and I worked as a housing organizer with Fair Share Housing Center. And my old colleague, Sam Gurgey, was the attorney on the Mount Laurel case for Middle Township. And for folks who don't know the history of New Jersey and the Mount Laurel doctrine, we have a pretty awesome law that goes all the way back to the NAACP and some great ancestors, Ethel Lawrence for one, who did this awesome thing and got wealthy suburban white towns to mandate affordable housing for low income folks. And because of that, fast forward to 2021, I believe, when Middle Township, which is a historic town in Cape May County, that goes all the way back to one of the first municipalities that were incorporated in New Jersey, when they were going through the affordable housing settlement, Ms. Shirley Green reached out to us to share the history of Whitesboro, which exists within Middle Township. And because of that, I got a chance to drive all the way to Cape May. It was my first time I ever been to Cape May. I remember it was, I think May of 2021, if I'm not mistaken. And my colleague, Sam, was like, well, yeah, we should go to Cape May to go meet Miss Shirley. I'm like, all right, sure. So I was, I guess, the community guy, community organizer guy. So I'm like, sure, where is it? So he sent me the address, and I remember I put it in the GPS, and it was like 2.5 hours. I'm like, 2.5 hours? Where the hell are we going? But I'm like, sure. So I drove down. I was late. He beat me to it by an hour, and we went and we met Miss Shirley at her house, and she took us to school. She brought out all her documents, all these deeds, the history of Whitesboro. She has like a museum in her house with like, you know, I can't describe it. You'd have to see it.
Which we hope
But
to have you see it. We want to see if we can do a presentation and a display in Newark this February. So hopefully we
Yeah, it's like work don't do it justice. You really got to come down to Whitesboro and see Miss Shirley's museum first off, and then the exhibit she has in her house. It's just mind blowing. But I just sat there and I took in all this information, and I was just so lost. I didn't even know how to process it. But I knew then there was a place called Whitesboro that had this amazing history that went all the way back to the last Reconstruction congressman out of North Carolina, the Congressman George Henry White, Booker T. Washington, the Reverend J.W. Fishburne, AME, uh,
Lawrence Dunbar,
Lawrence Dunbar,
the playwright.
Samuel Vick, Anita Gibbs, and a bunch of other people that don't get a lot of credit, but they were really instrumental in pulling their money together and purchasing 2,000 acres of land in Middle Township in the year 1901. 40 years, I believe, after
Reconstruction.
well, after the Civil War, 1965 to 1901, 30 some years, but in the midst of Reconstruction, right at the tail end, when it was clear this country wasn't really gonna
do right.
We should pick from here.
I'm gonna pick up. So what this town of Whitesboro is really great is that it came into history after the massacres of Wilmington, North Carolina, which Congressman White was a congressman out of North Carolina. So after if you might have heard, where they stormed down City Hall and they forced out all the black elected officials and the white elected officials that helped them. After they forced out, and all the property owners and all the
Let me stop you for a second, Felicia. Let me stop you for a second because I want to put a pin in this for this minute, for this reason, right? We just had the anniversary of January 6th, and folks think that behavior came out of the sky. No, that behavior was actually the norm. After a deal was made between Samuel Tilden and Rutherford B. Hayes to give Rutherford Hayes the White House and to officially end Reconstruction, which meant that the presence of Union forces in the South to protect the new rights of the newly freed former slaves were removed. And those crazy ass white folks went buck wild and literally purged local and state legislators from any black elected officials until they were finished, and they ended with George White. I want folks to put a pin in that. I want folks to also understand. That's right. I want folks to also understand. Listen now, wait a minute now. Right? Y'all also know that my relationship with the Black Panther Party. Assata Shakur is from Wilmington, North Carolina. Her own grandparents on her mother's side. That's right. Had their own battles with some of them crackers down there over their land. Right? So Assata, becoming this figure in the Black liberation movement didn't come out the sky neither. It was intimately, connected to the long legacy of struggle and resistance of our ancestors coming out of that space. You were going there. I just wanted to contextualize it because I want folks to see that and make it real plain to what's happening right now. Go ahead. You got the mic.
This brought me in. When Elorm started working with Miss Shirley, and they came up with the only way, because he left out that they were playing with the land. They're doing all kinds of crazy things with deeds, and just the history disappearing, knocking down buildings, all kinds of different things, erasing the history. And when I got up and found out there's a Booker T. Washington town right here in New Jersey, right? How come we don't know this history? When I understood like the massacres and how these people left their homes and their towns to come up here to Jersey and to build something special. The history of us in this state, the resilience of us Black folk is godlike, right? It's God inspired. And we pushing to help. So collecting this history, listening to all of these different things, the way he laid out the land of 2,000 acres that they put together, the way he cut it up and he was deeding it out. The way he even wrote the deed saying, if you $50 for this land, right? But if you fall behind and it's a good excuse, we can help you catch back up, right? The mindfulness that is not matched at this date in time of going out and willfully making a space for Black folk to prosper in a time when we weren't supposed to be prospering. And just some of the wording, just the survey of land, I guess they didn't survey like they were supposed to. And Congressman White wrote this letter saying, hey, right, I know you can do your jobs pretty much. I expect you to do your jobs like you did it over here, and I need you to do it over here now. Thank you very much. We'll be following up. Right, I'm paraphrasing, but that's pretty much the kind of language he was speaking to these people in, right? So just understanding, right, the mindset of these group of Black and kings and queens that is going to sit up there and say we're gonna make history of our own, and we're going to have a legacy of our own, because we always have in this country, right? And then the work that Elorm and Miss Shirley and I jumped on because I'm a big mouth, and very much so, a big mouth, and so we just doing the work. We're headed down there now. We're just pulling over because we have an event tomorrow, and I'll just throw that over to Elorm to talk about what we're officially doing in our our work right now.
Okay, so there's so much information with this project. I because of Asada, I'll mention one name, North Carolina royalty, Samuel Vick, who during his days was the wealthiest Black man in North Carolina. Like literally, this man owned acres and acres of land, and really, really highly respectable, smart as a wick. And because of the area he lived in, because of the nature of his government, didn't get an opportunity to truly be what he was actually meant to be, which is one of the most heroic American citizens to ever live. And those stories aren't told. No one writes Netflix documentaries about Samuel Vick because the world, especially our world in this country, never got an opportunity to learn about his history, to learn about the marvelous things he did, and to fast forward to now in Whitesboro, it's just a tremendous sense of responsibility. I think we feel with this project to let everybody know 1901, in the midst and the height of Klan terrorism, a group of folks got together, purchased 2,000 acres of land, and established their own community. Like no one is doing this right now.
But us right now, we're literally we're our goal is to for them to come from an unincorporated town to an incorporated town so they can manifest their own destiny. um then that we do that through drafting legislation from the government and having our elected officials sign it, and then the governor sign it to order. It hasn't A new borough hasn't been made in New Jersey in 70 years.
7 years.
So in that, so we're looking for galvanize everybody, because we need. It doesn't have to be right here from Middletown. The legislation, it can come from Newark, right? A legislator from Newark to say, hey, we want to put this together and sign it, right? Because this is not just South Jersey history, right? This is American history, but specifically a powerful New Jersey story. And so we're galvanizing people. We're bringing the community together so we can get this legislation passed so they can become their own shepherds of their own ship, captains of their own ship. So that's what we're doing, literally on our way to do now.
Well, let me add this. Let me add this to the conversation. 'Cause I want y'all to think about this too. All right. Before y'all came on, I was, we chatted for a couple seconds, and I asked you about my a good friend of mine, Stephanie James White,
Yes,
yes, who said Harris,
James Harris, James Harris.
yeah, who did very good, who does great work on Jersey's Black history, like this, right? But this is also, we're in a time where, in spite of all the madness from the Trumpites and these kind of people, right? Uh, where the movement for reparations is slowly steadily breaking ground and gaining traction. There's a special out on PBS out on, on reparations, now called The Cost of Inheritance, that I'm encouraging folks to look at. The state of New York, after us putting a whole lot of pressure on Governor Hochul, right, signed the Reparations Commission bill. There was a lot of fight over that. We owe a lot to my big brother Charles Barron, who just left the city council on that, right? There's movement around that. In New Jersey, under the leadership of the New Jersey Institute for Social Justice, we have a New Jersey Reparations Advisory Council, right? The story around what reparations should look like in New Jersey belongs in that conversation, right? So that's a place that I definitely want you all to think about lifting this particular story up, lifting this movement of reclamation up, because it is a reparative justice story.
Yes,
Right?
sir.
Yes, sir.
And directly linked to the residual terror that came out of the slave trade in this country. So just
Come on
wanted
now.
to share that. Now, so now, tell us about what's happening tomorrow. You got a big event tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we have our first fundraiser to get the community together and raise some funds to support this project. The work is organizing to get folks to understand what it means for Whitesboro to be its own municipality, and the different systems that have to come in place before it's feasible to pass legislation. Because the goal here isn't to incorporate a municipality for the sake of incorporating a municipality, but for it to actually exist and be effective, and for it to provide the services that the residents demand and deserve, and for it to be a thriving municipality like other municipalities, not just a welfare system or a welfare state, but a municipality that has all the resources, the monies, the connections, the county, state, federal, and for it to, you know, do all the things that all of the great municipalities in Jersey do. So our first fundraiser, bringing the community together, raising some funds to support us getting the word out there about the nature of our project, making connections with people who can come and support, and get folks to come and have a good time and understand that this work is hard work, but the root of it all is joy. So we're gonna have some party time tomorrow.
And community, because what we don't have is community, right? All of those things are needed in a thriving black community in which we have to build. So it's family, it's friends, it's pulling together because it's a rural town, the people connecting all the different groups together so they know that they're one family with one goal and one direction. So in all of those things, we're looking to have a great time down in Whitesboro in Cape May County tomorrow at 9 o'clock at
It's 11 to 5 at the Cape Hope Church, right of Route 9. The address is 1159 South, Route 9 South, Cape May County, Cape May Courthouse, Cape May County, New Jersey.
yes, and if you want to be part, you can go right on to preservewhitesboro.org and sign our petition. Looking for support to gather organized support throughout the state and make a donation because our goal is to get a plan. We don't want you to just think, pull something out the air. We want to have an official, dedicated plan on how we're planning to design and build this town and continue on to Congressman White and Booker T. Washington and Lawrence Dunbar and Mrs. Gibbs and all the great people who laid a foundation for us.
I don't know. I don't know if y'all can hear me. I'm just dropping that on
can
our YouTube, so folks can see that. Right, that's just an incredible story. Let me ask you this: we only got a few minutes left, but you alluded to where it needs to go in terms of legislative support. Who do you have any legislators that have agreed to help move the whole question yet?
We went to the
Went to the
few
few
legislators,
legislators,
but they're
but
just
they're just
especially
especially
local.
local.
They're sitting back waiting and hovering, the local ones. They don't want to see it happen. They don't want to, it's taxation without representation. They get plenty of black dollars out of this town without having any representation on the bigger picture. So they're not going to want to see them go, but we have to go. So we're looking for some support on a real level, legislative level, to help write these bills and pull them to task. Because it's, again, like you were saying earlier, this is retribution. This is history. We want to talk about the Heritage Trail. Well, what's even more powerful than this, right? Whitesboro and Longside, and if we're gonna, that's the trail. The Nasbury Park in Newark, right? We're all one big family, right? So having that and having a town that's designated, that's been through the fire, right? To come, literally came from the fire, right? Is and having this part of an official town with a real industry, with real a reason why their kids don't have to leave. They can stay home if they want to and preserve their history. So we're looking, right? Like I said earlier, it doesn't necessarily have to come from South Jersey. It could be a nice Newark legislator. Hey.
Yeah, and a little I'll add to that for folks to know the context. Cape May County is a Republican town. The state senator for that area, Legislative District 1, is Senator Testa, and the assemblymen are Assemblyman McClellan. If folks are familiar with New Jersey politics, the only African American Republican assemblyman in Cape May.
Yeah. He's the only one of them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Senator Assemblyman Simonson, and represented in Congress by Van Drew, who we know as Democrat/Republican, and independent. And yeah, I believe that's it.
So
And so that's the nature of the area. And initially, when we kicked off this project, is to have anyone who's interested in supporting come and support and going through the right process as the duly elected representatives of that area to take responsibility for their constituents, whether they elected them or not, to take responsibility and introduce legislation on their behalf because that is what they ask of their representative officials. And the feedback we've gotten been trying to find the right word because moderate. There's a moderate feedback. What we've heard is as long as we prove that there's broad community support behind this project, we will get our meeting with the elected officials and present our case for them to actually introduce legislation in Trenton. And so right now we are doing that work. But for anyone who wants to come and support, that is willing to put their name and sign across the dotted line that this is what they want to see happen. The process is very simple. Like the boundaries have to get established, and the state has to designate the powers to the local municipality, and then it comes back for a special election for residents within those boundaries to vote yeah or nay on becoming their own borough. So it's a lot of work.
And
But
one of the unsung stories, one of the aspects of that's very basic to the personality of the geographics of New Jersey. New Jersey is a state of small towns. I mean, what most of us come from hoods with some size, but it's a state of small towns. So, that's and each of them have their own story and their own history. So why can't we lift up this particular town and its history? Right? Yeah. Ed, you want to jump in on this?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I want
I
to
want to
was
was
population down in Whitesboro.
so it's really odd because the way they play with the zip code, but it's a few thousand, 3,000 or so, right? Maybe less. It depends. There's Whitesboro, then there's Another little, what's the other little town?
So,
He made a bunch of little towns.
if you take a look at our website, what we're considering Whitesboro now until we have it surveyed and have the official size, the original the map of what was initially purchased, all 2,000 acres, until we have the boundaries established. What we're considering Whitesboro now is what is known within the community as Whitesboro, the town of Burley, Maryville, Wildwood Junction Heights, and Wildwood Heights. Together, those clusters form what we consider Whitesboro. And if we look at the census designated place for what has been considered historically as Whitesboro and the Burley census designated place, which also exists, we have a combination of 3,066 residents. And the breakdown for that is 55% of those residents identify as white, 24 identify as black, and 14 identify as Hispanic, and then the rest of them is the remaining categories.
And so those that 55% of those white folks do they own that land that used to be owned by those black folks when the land was first purchased, or do those white folks own it now?
They own it now. They've been having a land grab literally in the last few years. Accelerated tax sales. There was this huge tax sale a few weeks ago. That was a thick book, right, of tax liens, right, that they were selling properties. That's actually how Elorm got into the mix of them literally taking, rezoning, and renaming Mrs. Shirley Green's, which want to know history, right? And I would love to see her and Miss Dr. Harris together, because that's history right there. Mrs. Green is phenomenal, right? Literally taking her property, because she owns a nice piece of change down there. She's the owner and the preservator of the Whitesboro Historic Museum in the county, that she decided to tell our own story. And so down there, this land grabs left and right. So again, if we want to save the black history and the black people there, we literally have to move now.
Yeah. So what I guess I heard you guys say you have a website. So, why not, if the land is now for sale, there's this land grab going on, and you all are, trying to have it designated, as a legitimate town in the state of New Jersey, and that land is now, is for sale. Why not, do some sort of big, huge GoFundMe or something, and let's see if we can create some sort of nonprofit and purchase the land back.
You're right on. You're right in the same wheelhouse. I know we all over, and I know everybody watches, but maybe this is a conversation we could have with you and Baba and Miss Shirley and Minister Elorm afterwards, because that is right in the same wheelhouse. Because industry is real, and industry down there is real. So we're looking to not just have a sham of a town. We're looking to have a town where they can come back home, and we can build something and fulfill what Congressman White was doing. I was going to say trying to do, but he did it.
Yeah, because if the property is for sale, right? I mean, in our community, we've got brothers who are making movies that go and do GoFundMe's to make movies. Last time I checked, they're not making any more land, right? So so I think if we can, begin to have that conversation, put together the right kind of promotion and publicity around this, and that land is for sale, I mean, our money's still spent too, right? And so if we can put together, a nonprofit, we can, tell our folks, listen, if all of y'all donate, you got 30 to 40 million black folk, and everybody, like you going to church on a Sunday morning, if everybody give a little, ain't nobody got to give a lot, right?
Pass the plate.
And then we go down and bid just like everybody else to purchase that land back, right? and then all of us
Exactly.
own more property, and then we can begin to build that community. I mean, listen, the story y'all are telling is really the story of our people. I mean, you think about what happened with Wall Street, right? The first Black Wall Street, right? With wherever Black folk tried to go and establish our own
I
level
got
of,
a bad sister. Come on and tell that story too. Come on.
yeah, we've had our people, wherever we go to create our own, we've always had our enemy who came and wanted to knock that down and take it from us. Well, this is 2024, right? We got young people like you two, right, who are on the job. I'm saying, why not let's create some real unity and support with y'all? Because remember, money talks and bullshit walks, right? So we
Hey,
need to get some money and we need to start talking with our money and go down there and compete with them white folks and try to take back that 2,000 pieces of land and then start moving our people back. I
I'm
mean,
gonna
that's
say the
that's
tax
what
lien.
that's what
That is
that whole
exactly right.
hey Zaid, isn't that what that whole freedom land is all about, brother?
Land is the basis of all independence. That's
Yeah,
right. That's right. No matter how big or how small, if it's yours, it's yours.
right.
That's correct. And I want to say that tax lien sale, all of the tax lien that was a stack this thick, right, of tax lien was only $1 million or so, right? So what if someone just showed up with $1 million or so and bought the whole tax lien book, right? What if we could just show up like that and keep up? And honestly, what you're talking about is exactly how Congressman White and Lawrence Dunbar and Booker T and what's the minister's name?
Reverend Jacob Fishburne.
Right? That's how they did it. Right? That's how they did it all across. It was us who did it for us. And then that's what we have to remember. We never had a great benefactor coming in hiding it. It was us doing it for us. And we have to get back to that because again, we don't even nowadays we don't look for that the scary white man to come in and do it, right? We do it to ourselves nowadays. We have to make sure that we are united and we come together. That's the goal. That's the core.
Listen, I'm aware of guys who go and throw $1 million at a strip club on the floor. So I'm definitely with it. So whatever conversation y'all want to put together on that business front, so we're going down and taking a look at that book that quote, and let's figure out how we get in that game.
Yeah, yes. So wow, yes, this is loaded. I put the one in the wrong damn chat. I wanted to put whoever's handling the damn screen lift up what I put preservation.org. That's the one I wanted to go up. Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. Right. As we wind down, this is Jonathan also just joined us. Jonathan's a bad teacher, one of our teaching legends in town, and it's got some serious heavyweight folks that he's bringing in a little while. He's going to ask you what we call our ritual question as we wind down y'all segment. Jonathan, go ahead and ask him the question.
Well, in the spirit of hip hop, who is your favorite hip hop artist, individual, or group?
Ooh. Um
Or who are you just rocking with now? Doesn't have to be
Okay. All right.
one.
No,
Doesn't
no,
have
no.
right.
I'm an old school. So I'm old school. 90s baby. So let's talk about um leaders of the new school was it right when I was coming up, and Slick Rick, man, and who else did we rock to? Rock Kim, right? That's a good one. That's a good one. All right, Craig Mack. Oh, go. I'm gonna shut up. But yeah, that's
Wow,
when
Craig
I was.
Mack.
Yeah. He reminded me of my cousin. He was hard. He hit hard. Oh gosh. Oh, Big Daddy Kane was always good in our house, right? Oh gosh.
Well,
I will shut up.
it was just favorite. Who you rocking with now, or who you rocking with then? That's you more than answered. I like how you brought it back to Craig Mack.
Yeah, I love
Wow.
Craig Mack too.
Okay.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
sleep
I
on
love Craig Mack. But Elorm, come on. Who you rocking with?
Lord, don't cancel me. But
it.
back in high school,
Nancy.
I grew up on late registration and college dropout. So the man himself,
Yes,
Mr. Kanye West.
Kanye always
sir.
gets a musical pass anyway, right? Like, I mean, you could say that he's, suffering from mental illness, extreme, and we're totally okay with that, right? Like, it's totally all right. And it's good to love his music. I thought you were going to be like, you know, it's Ice, Ice, baby. We would have canceled you then, right? At that point, we'd have been like, can't come back on the show. Can't
Somebody
do it.
bought somebody bought them damn records though.
Right. So I mean, as long as it's not that, like you'd be like Kanye. I mean, I listened to his gospel album too, so I guess I'm guilty. Um, so thank you so much for coming on, and I think the story is fascinating. I Googled Congressman White, and just like his story in and of itself is fascinating. Um,
Yes.
I do think that the historical society needs to keep a lot of that stuff because these are stories. This is our history, and we don't know it. So what you're doing is important.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
No, thank you, thank you.
Y'all keep pushing. Y'all know what to do. All right, we'll be in touch.
Power to the people.
All power,
All
baby.
right.
Hey, so another segment of All Politics Are Local, and we are here. We got another month. We have our friend Reverend Conrad Tillard. Reverend Tillard, are you there? Reverend Tillard, are you there with us? Okay. Yes,
Yes,
great.
I'm here. I hope you can hear me. I'm
We
in
can
the
hear you.
airport in Durham, North Carolina. So I hope you're doing well. I hope everyone is well. I had a chance to hear the earlier guest, and I'm just so happy to be with the brethren.
Oh, well, thank you, man. It's always a pleasure and honor to have you on. You know that. And you started off a little provocatively. I was like, what do you want to talk about? And you were like, Negroes.
Well, that was a tongue-in-cheek reference, but I've been reflecting all week. I've been reflecting all week on the death of Brother Imam Hassan Sharif and
Mm,
the tragedy of that, and how history sometimes can repeat itself. I'm thinking back to 1973 when
right.
Minister James Shabazz was killed in that city at that same, not at the masjid, but he led that
In front of
same
his house,
masjid.
right.
But he led that same masjid when it was Muhammad Mosque 25.
Mm,
And so, again, another self inflicted wound. And that's where I have decided that I'm going to spend all of my time, whatever
mm,
time I have left, you know, focusing on those things that we can change, the unforced errors. I'm an old
mm.
athlete, and nothing upset a coach more than unforced errors. And that's what we got to improve upon. So I said that rather tongue in cheek, but there's a lot going on.
And
Uh,
it as well. I guess the text. I was thinking more like you were just gonna start Cat Williams and
oh
you
no,
like
no,
you and I was looking forward to that. And now you
no,
got me all
no, no,
serious and deep
no,
now because
no, because I
you
don't.
know that's fair.
No, I don't want to see black people do bad, and I don't glory in that. And when we do bad, it hurts me greatly. And so,
That's fair.
what I won't do is make excuses when we don't do right. But I don't spend an inordinate time thinking about the things that we do wrong. I empathize with Cat Williams. It was very interesting, all that he had to say, but of course, I don't have the facts, so it's not a
Right.
whole lot I can say about that. And but I am watching that, like a lot of other people in Black America.
And and I think that and the contrast is, that stuff with Cat Williams is all entertainment. It's not to be taken seriously. It is only for like, oh, that's interesting. It's like a TV show, and to some extent, I'm guilty, even in this conversation, of the distraction from the actually even more important issues, right? And the more important issues that you were talking about, in terms of this level of tragedy and how this level of tragedy, um, seems to almost repeat itself in our city, um, in dealing with what happened in 1973. Um, what are more of your thoughts on it, Reverend Tillard?
Well, I don't have the facts of it, and so I don't know what happened, but I do know that we have a history of undermining our own progress, and I think that one of the reasons why I like to focus so much on what we can do to make our lives better, to make our people better, in spite of what the opposition is. I don't focus on the opposition because there'll always be opposition. But the question is, do we as a people have a positive program? And I guess, I left the nation
Mm.
27 years ago, but Mr. Muhammad's program, I think, still in all, is one of the greatest programs that we've ever had. And of course, he was not alone, because when you go back and just read what Booker T. Washington said, we so misunderstand him and all the great that he did, even Du Bois. One thing's for sure, whoever killed the Imam, he wasn't under the influence of Du Bois, Garvey, or the messenger. So, that's what concerns me. And then, of course, when we do gain power and we do achieve, Sister Fonnie Willis achieved and reached a great height. The district attorney in Atlanta wasn't the first black person, maybe the first black woman. I can't quite remember, but when you try to put a president in jail, um, you have to be squeaky clean yourself. And I've said it before that I don't think it's an accident that this man is being tried by all of these Democratic, partisan Democrats in these jurisdictions. And we fought to get people in position so that they could do justice and be fair, and not to this politics should have nothing to do with this.
Wait,
The,
so you're like saying that Trump is only being prosecuted for political reasons? Like,
well, I think
I'm just saying that's there are a lot
I
of
think
cards in the other direction about the stuff
well,
that he actually did.
but the interesting thing is, in every jurisdiction where there's a trial, there's a very partisan Democrat, and I think that when you have a situation like that, that doesn't make me sleep well at night, because that means if someone gets the office of prosecutor and they don't like what I stand for, what I say, what I believe in, I could be prosecuted. I don't think
But
it's an accident. I don't think it's an accident that at every jurisdiction he's being prosecuted. It is a partisan Democrat. I love Tish James,
well,
but
I,
she is a partisan Democrat. Okay.
but
Fonnie
I think that
Williams is a
I
partisan
think you also got
Democrat.
to look at the evidence, right? Like you got to look at, like, is there a basis for this? I think that
Well,
there's a different
I,
category
I,
of when you are like talking about when Black Panthers were
well,
unfairly prosecuted,
I
or
see
when other people were unfairly prosecuted, right? Like, we know that prosecutorial abuse takes place, and we know it has taken place within our own community. But I think this is very different based on all of the evidence that goes the other way, right?
Well,
Like,
I haven't been convinced of that evidence, and I tell you, um, the old saying, a grand jury can indict a ham sandwich, and Eldridge Cleaver and many in the Panthers were not choir boys, and they were not 100% innocent.
But they didn't deserve
no, they
all of the
didn't.
prosecutions that they had against them.
And my point is, no one does for political purposes. I do not believe in political prosecutions. I do not believe that that is a good thing or a healthy thing, because when you sow the wind, you reap the whirlwind. And black elected officials have been historically prosecuted, and I would think that black prosecutors would be a model for restraint for people who are those who would prosecute only uh, when there is clear criminal behavior.
Yeah,
And I'm just not sure, because
I
you have a Republican candidate who is being prosecuted by a Democratic Justice Department, a Democratic DA in New York, a Democratic uh, DA in Atlanta, and so forth and so on. And I'm just not convinced. I'm not convinced. But one thing's for sure, Sister Fannie Willis has got some problems in Georgia at this point. And
and what are the problems in Georgia? Like in terms
well,
of
as you
there
know,
were already a series of there were already a series of cases, or there was already a case where the libel against the two women who were there who were intimidated was
no,
launched. Like
that's not Trump. That's Rudolph
no,
Giuliani.
no, I know,
And
but
and
but
and
but but
and
they're part of the case in Atlanta, as in the
well,
ways. I mean, we've
listen.
heard the phone call where he's like, "Find me votes,"
No,
like
no, no,
"Find me
no, no,
votes."
no. I've told you on this case before. I never interpreted him saying "find me votes" by saying "go make up votes." I think, rightly or wrongly, he thought he had won that race, and he thought there were enough votes, and he was basically saying, "I know this thing was stolen, and I only need 11. Just find 11,000 of the stolen
Wow,
votes." Now,
I don't know how you
I'm
find
not
it if
saying.
it's not there.
Well.
Like you caping for Trump, right?
First of all, I'm not saying that he was right. I am not saying that. But what I am saying, because I can't lie, I can't. What I'm saying is, the conversation I heard did not appear to be a man saying, "I know I lost. Find me 11,000 votes that I don't have." Rightly or wrongly, he seemed to be saying to me, "I know that many votes were stolen from me. All I need is 11. You to find 11,000
I
of those."
I I think
And that's what I
Republicans who
heard.
work
That's what
for
I
him,
heard. That's what I
Republicans who
heard.
work for him have said not only said the opposite, right? They're like, look, he knew he
Well,
lost. He was trying to, and
well.
these are
First of
people
all,
who worked under
well,
Trump who
First
have
of all,
said this and testified to this.
first of all, these same
As not
prosecutors,
bipartisan. I'm
these
talking about
same
Republicans are the witnesses.
no. First of all, these prosecutors have cast a wide net, and you know, and I know what prosecutors do, and this is
These
why,
Republicans came
if you
forward,
really
like his communications director. They came forward
if
and were
you
like,
really
"This is foul." They
yeah,
resigned
and
because they
all
were like, "This is foul." That's not
and
partisan.
most of the people talking are people facing charges. Okay, so
No, there were people that
I
his
said
communication.
most of the people that
But
are talking are
you're
facing
wrongly
charges.
characterizing the no.
Are you so
Their
are you
former
saying
attorney
most?
general. I'm talking about the
Oh,
people who were right.
listen,
Like
listen.
you're
Let me
talking
tell
about
you
his
something.
communications directors. You're talking
Let,
about people
let,
who were literally in the room when
let,
he
let,
was like,
let,
"I know I lost,
let
but
me tell you
I made
something.
way to win."
Let me tell you something. I've run for office. Stacey Abrams has run for office. It is not uncommon for people who run for office to think that the election was stolen from them. Again, Stacey Abrams never conceded
Stacey Abrams
that.
didn't lead an insurrection on the Georgia
Well,
State House.
if he's
Like
led an
she wasn't like
insurrection,
go.
if
Stacey
he
Abrams was like, let's go out and register more people to vote
if he
and
led an
change laws to make.
insurrection, why isn't he being charged with that? He was not charged with leading an insurrection. So you keep saying that that's a Democratic talking point, but the fact
I
of the
think we all
matter is
saw
that's just
one
not
six
true.
on TV. Like I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
but the fact
it's
is
not
that's
far
not
fetched
true though.
when he's like, "Go take it back," and then they go
No,
take it back
he
because
never
he knows like
he never said that.
stop the steal,
I
right?
learned a long
What does it
time
mean to
ago.
stop the steal?
I,
Stand
le-
by,
I,
stand back,
I learned a long time ago. You don't have to lie on anybody. The truth is bad enough.
right?
Again, if he thought the election was stolen, he would act like most politicians. We did not have any delay
I'm
in the
just saying
peaceful
you're ignoring a lot
transfer
of
of
the
power.
evidence that's already out there,
I'm
right?
not ignoring anything. I have nothing to gain from it. But I do know this. I have seen the offices of district attorney. I have seen the Justice Department used against political enemies, people with
Yes, and
unpopular
that
opinions. And I don't
yes,
like that. And I will always stand against that. And I will err on the side of that as being injustice because
Eh,
the many people who I love, admire, and respect have been victims of that. So just because there's a black person in that office, I will never celebrate because it sets
but
a very bad precedent. Because one day the
it's not a
Democrats get
matter
in
of
office,
celebrating.
and
It if the evidence clearly goes a
well,
particular way,
well,
follow it
well,
and let
well,
a
well,
jury
well. Here's
decide,
my
which is
question.
what they're doing.
Well, here's my question. If the evidence, if the evidence covers that, and even
Right.
that is a very, are you willing to say to me right now, as a black man, that most of the men in jail right now, that the evidence
Okay,
allegedly
so
in these
so I'm not.
in these
I am.
trials,
I am
that
not putting Trump in
no,
the same
well,
category
well,
as
I
black
am.
men who
Well,
have systematically been
well,
worked
I
against.
am because,
I
and the reason why I am is when this system does not like you, it will come after
Trump
you.
is not the central
There's a
part.
reason. There's a reason why the media was complicit in lying and saying, and would not even allow people to post on the internet stories about the corruption in the Biden family. There's a reason for that. Now, Hunter Biden is under indictment, but this was told to the American people during the
Hunter
election.
Biden's been under indictment, been
No,
trying to
no,
work
no,
through those
not during
charges. We
during
know he was a drug addict. We know
during
he
the
did some illegal
election,
stuff.
Jonathan. During the election, the Democrats conspired. It's already come out. They've met with high tech. They would not even allow people to publish stories suggesting this. So that has already been proven that the Democratic Party, the Biden team, met with
Uh,
people at Facebook, met with
you know,
high level people in high tech, and that those stories, when the American people deserved to hear that, they were being told
okay,
that
so
this was Russian
this,
disinformation.
well,
Whether
first
there's
of all, this
something to
thing has
that,
been
whether
studied
there's
for
something
years.
to that or
And
not,
if that's the
you
only thing they
cannot
have is
deny
that
that the
what we've
media,
known for
you
5
can't
years,
deny
and
that
that's that his son was a little shady. I mean, that's the
uh,
only thing we know. We know his
Jonathan,
son was shady.
Jonathan,
This is
Jonathan,
not like a conspiracy of the
you're
president.
revising history. The fact of the matter is, if you go back, the high tech would not even allow people during an election where the American people had
I,
the right to
I,
know these things, and they would not even allow people to share stories
I,
that had
I
already
think,
been
I think a
published in
lot of stories,
newspapers.
I think a lot of stories
No,
were
no,
shared,
Jonathan, let me tell
right?
you something.
And on top of all that, right? Like, what does that have to do with anything?
It
Like
has a lot to do with
the
everything.
whole point of the Hunter Biden story is supposed to be some connection
It has to do
Joe
with the
Biden,
fact that
which
Joe
has never
Biden
been
has been in
proven,
office
even
since
now,
19.
right?
It has to do with the fact that
Even
Joe
now,
Biden. It has to do with
like
the fact that Joe
like
Biden has
these
been. Can I
these aren't
make
even
my point?
Republicans
If you let me make my
talking
point,
points.
I'll make it. It has to do with the fact that Joe Biden has been in office since 1972, making a modest salary. He should not
Hmm.
be rich. He should not have the assets that he has. It has to do with the fact that his son, a dope fiend, and someone who had no experience, didn't speak Ukrainian, had no energy experience, was getting millions of dollars while his father was the vice president and determining the policy in the Ukraine. And so this is at the very least, the American people have the right to know about this and to
Okay,
examine
so
this. And
so
during
it's
the
been
election, what I'm saying to you is there was a
I'm just,
conspiracy between the Democrats and the media because they
you
wanted
know,
Trump out. They would not even allow this information. And I lived under this
and
conspiracy. I
meanwhile
lived under this conspiracy. I lived
you are
under this
caping for
conspiracy
Trump.
when
Meanwhile,
Jesse
his
Jackson.
sons are
Let me
literally on the payroll and literally making billion-dollar deals.
his sons were never on the payroll. They were
His
never
sons
on the
worked for
payroll
the
of the federal.
USA.
No, they
His
weren't.
daughter worked for
And they did
his
not take
son.
us out.
His
And they
son
did
was
not
an
take a
advisor.
salary. And they did
Whatever.
not
They
take
don't
a
need
salary.
it because they're cutting billion-dollar
Okay, then.
deals.
So
They're
the point
advising
is.
policy and
So
international
the
policy.
point is,
You are defending Trump like
I'm not.
when his
Okay.
actual kids are in public.
I'm just dealing with the facts, okay? And the facts
Right.
remain. The facts
You going
remain
after Biden when Trump is just in your face with it, and you're like, but Trump,
in your
no.
face with what? It's like you all throw a lot
His
of
son,
things up
his
against the
son is
wall
like
and
making billion
nothing
dollar deals
sticks.
with Saudi Arabia.
You don't like the man's
It's like what?
temperament and disposition. But I tell you this, nobody died under him. And
Hunter
now you
Biden,
got
what he's
let
probably
me
most guilty
finish
of
my
is
point.
being an underachiever in comparison to the Trump
Let me
children.
finish my point. No one died under his administration. Now, like
What
under
do you mean no one
Obama,
died
like
under
under
his
Bush,
administration?
like under all of these establishment politicians,
Like
millions of
Syria
people are dying. Yeah, that happened under Obama and George
and
Bush.
Trump
Okay, no, it didn't
and
happen
Trump
under Trump. No, it
and
didn't.
in Afghanistan.
No, no, it
They're
didn't.
all Trump was president during those times when it
Trump
happened. He took
said
credit
we've got to
for
get.
certain things as well.
Trump said we've got to stop these endless wars, and you know that
Biden left
nobody died.
Afghanistan.
There were no wars under Trump, under the Trump administration. Let's stop it.
No,
Let's
these
just
wars
stop it.
were ongoing. These wars
Trump
on
had
terror
already
were
said we were getting.
ongoing. We
Trump had
were in
already
Afghanistan.
said we were getting out of Afghanistan.
Right, but I mean, those wars
At
went
least
on
at
under
least
him.
reflect the
Biden
man's
actually got them out
position
of it.
correctly. At least reflect the man's position correctly. You got tens of thousands of Palestinians dying. That didn't happen under Trump, okay? That happened under Joe Biden. You got immigrants coming in from every
So
corner
Trump
of the
made the
world through
Middle East
Mexico.
better for the Palestinians? I don't think so.
Well, I think the 20,000 or more people who have died in recent weeks, and that's why
No,
Michigan, and that's why the Arab community in Michigan is walking away from Joe Biden
no.
wholesale. I
I,
bet you it matters to
on that,
them.
I'm not gonna. On that, I'm not
I
gonna
bet you it
disagree with
matters to them. I
you. On
bet
that,
you it
I'm not
matters
gonna
to
disagree
Kwame
with you. But they're
Kilpatrick.
probably not gonna be like, but I'm supporting Trump because they understand what
Well,
it's
if they're
like
not
that
going
list
to
of world
support,
wars.
well, they've already said they're not supporting Joe Biden. So
They
that
might
tells you,
not, right? They might
okay,
have
all
good
right,
reason not to. South
okay.
Africa's making a pretty
Then what are you?
powerful case
So what are
about
you
like
saying?
genocide and the U.S. supporting
Well,
it. But these are
20,000
different
people,
issues, right? Like,
20,000 or more Palestinians did not die under Donald Trump.
no,
And at least you got to deal with the facts. You may not
no,
like
no.
him, but you got
As
to
I
deal with
said,
the
I'm not
facts.
arguing with you on Biden and
Now let's
Israel
talk about
right
the
now.
border. Let's talk about the
However,
border.
however, we are we are
Let's talk about
however
the border.
we are running.
Let's
We have
talk
run out
about
of time. And we are on the next one, but I'm
let's
gonna give
talk
you the
about
final
the
pitch.
border. Let's talk about the border. Okay, we've got immigrants pouring into this country from every corner of the world because Joe Biden wanted to show his progressive base that he's in and that he's beholden to. I'm not Trump. Trump had a policy that if you're an asylum seeker, your claim will be processed in Mexico. You can come, you can seek asylum, but you will process that claim in Mexico. Now, in every city across the country, New York, Chicago, you have local people who are being. There's a school in Brooklyn where kids were made to go home and do online schooling so that they could put migrants in their school and throughout the country. Again, these are bad policies, and you just can't
All right, so
defend mess. Gas is
all right,
higher, the food is higher. If you would just be honest, my point is,
so
whether you like the man or not, the
so
economy is in
question: Are you
shambles. The
gonna
country.
are you gonna be voting for Trump?
I don't
I
know.
mean, it sounds like a campaign. Are you gonna be voting? That's
I
it.
might. I just might. First of all, I
Is
don't
that
even
because you
know.
sound like you making? I'm just
I
asking.
don't know. I don't know if he would be the nominee. I would have a harder time voting for Nikki Haley because she's a neocon. Again, she's a traditional politician. If you notice, with all of these traditional politicians, Obama, Bush, Clinton, they all have a proclivity to lead us into wars where millions of innocent people are killed because they're in bed with the armaments industry. They're in bed with the people who Dwight Eisenhower said we had to watch, the military industrial complex. And that's why a lot of people don't like Trump in the establishment because and Minister Farrakhan, I heard a speech that he made, and I don't know when it was because I don't know the context. But one thing about it, he said that many of the people who have attacked black people, many of the institutions in this country that have hurt black people, Trump fought those institutions. And I tell you, I worked with Jesse. I saw the media be unfair to him. I saw the
I,
media never ever accurately report on Minister Farrakhan, and I see the same thing with Trump. I see
so
the
you're
media.
comparing Trump with Farrakhan.
What? Okay, well, I'm
Like
not going to
that
shrink
is
from that. Okay, well,
the.
what is that supposed
I'm
to?
just
Is that
saying.
supposed to make me
Is
back
that
up? I
you?
said what
I
I'm
just want to be
comparing
clear
is
because
what
people
I'm
be like,
saying
"Oh,
is
Farrakhan, what?"
I've
Right.
seen people in the media never accurately reflect what these men have said and who they actually are. So in that regard, yes, I do compare his sojourn, his plight, because again,
Okay. So
if the progressive media or the conservative media doesn't like you, you and Malcolm said this more clearly than anyone. The press will have you hate someone, and the press will have you love someone. So
so
you
so
have to
so
have the
the
independent ability
for
to
the white
see.
nationalists who've been
Well,
like
you know what,
powerfully
that will work for.
motivated by Trump are like, "Ooh, white
Well, I don't
nationalists
know.
have like
I don't know
Farrakhan
too
and
many.
all in the same."
Listen, I tell people all the time. I'm not play.
Yeah.
I don't see too many Ku Klux Klan members. I don't see too many white nationalists in Bedford
Right.
Stuyvesant,
True. You
in the
probably don't see
Bronx,
many
in
of them.
Manhattan, Newark.
That's a good
So
thing.
I'm sure they didn't kill our brother. They don't. They're not the people destroying our community. So I really don't know what white nationalists do. I haven't met too many of
Mm,
them. But I'm just
right.
telling you what progressives
Let's
do.
hope that remains the same.
I know what progressives do. I know what they do. Like
But
Malcolm used to say, I don't know
right.
anything about the South. I've lived my whole life in the North. Malcolm would say, so he had a different view on liberals than Dr. King did and progressives. So I'm more in the Malcolm view. I only know
I
about the
don't think
people
Malcolm
who
would support
oppress
Trump.
me.
I don't think
What?
Malcolm be
Well,
like,
I
"Oh,
think I think he'd be pretty
that
much
dude."
saying what I'm saying. I tell you that much. I think he'd be pretty
Well,
much saying
It'll
what
be the
I
ballot or
but
the
I think
bullet.
well
It'll be liberty. It'll be death. It'll
well
be
I
freedom for everybody, or it'll be freedom for
for the sake
nobody.
of time.
That's what
No,
Malcolm
wait, hold
said.
on, hold on.
no,
But
well,
before we are going to end get ready to end this segment, but we're going to have to table this until the next time, Reverend. It's always good.
well,
We
I
always like
appreciate you.
I believe in having conversations with people who
Well, I
we
hope
have different views.
yeah, and I appreciate that, and I hope people will listen and hear what I'm saying. I've not been known to be an imp or a gimp. I've not never had a history of being naive or all of a sudden I haven't become naive. I'm doing what I think often we're reluctant to do, and that is to call out the people who oppress us. And as far as I know, anybody in Newark, New Jersey, shouldn't even open their mouth to talk about a Ku Klux Klan because they haven't seen one in Newark. I know last time I saw them in D.C., Negroes ran them out of the city in 1983. So I don't know when the
Right,
last time
right.
they've been to
But
Newark. So
we probably wouldn't be going out to support someone who's like, yes, go Klan, do what I want to do. Like that's probably not going to be the person people in North can be like, that's
I
my
just
man.
haven't. I just don't. Hey, listen. I just don't think the Klan, the white nationalists, are the people in Newark's biggest problem. Okay.
Yeah, all right, that's cool. They well,
Okay.
not right.
I'm just
I
being
we're gonna
honest with
agree.
you. Now,
Right, we're gonna agree to disagree
if you disagree with
on the
me, let me know.
implications. We disagree on the implications
We
of the
disagree
argument,
on that.
but the on the implications of
Do we
like
disagree on
Trump is
that?
our man. I don't think Trump the man. Right? I don't think Trump is
Well,
Farrakhan.
well,
But
I
until
never. And the funny thing is, I never said. The thing is, I never said any of those things that you're saying. So
okay,
okay. Well,
fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair
all
enough.
right.
All right. So, well,
Okay.
until next time,
God
man. And
bless.
always a pleasure. Really,
All
honestly,
right.
always a pleasure. All right,
Okay.
and take care. All right. Good night. Hey, Donna, we are.
Hey, Conrad left because I wanted to ask him, was this the statement he was talking about? But he left, so we'll wait.
Oh no, no. He was actually talking about initially. We have the imam who was initially was talking about the imam who was killed in Newark, and that's what started the conversation. So it really started really seriously on the recent happenings in Newark and violence and stuff, and then it was wide ranging. We have
On the last statement,
Whit,
he was talking about the media and Trump. So I had a statement that Farrakhan had said, but we can wait till the next time.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
because that conversation just, I mean,
Yep.
it went places. It went places. All
Okay.
right. So,
Usually
but
does what you do.
actually, yeah. So, but we are very, very honored in our next segment, and welcome to our guest, Erica, Erica Schuyler, um, who is the organizer of Hand in Hand, a
Mhm.
domestic employers network, and they're going to be talking about a strategy for for actually legislating uh, when it comes to like strategy of people who are taken advantage of or exploited by society, but how can you actually put together legislation that is something that can actually work, right? Like there's a whole strategy that's involved. Also, we are honored to have actor Steve Way here as well, both talking about the campaign to give domestic workers rights. But the thing that's really struck me as being really interesting in the conversation that I had with Myrna Morales, um, was the nature of the organization itself. Because when the organizing employers of domestic workers, and I heard that, and I'm like, organizing employers for what? Like, are you organizing employers to like suppress domestic workers? You were trying to get a cheaper wage? Like what sense does that make? Because here's the thing, right? Like there have been movements to organize domestic workers for years, right? Like, and I know that Myrna Morales, shout out to Myrna Morales, who produced this segment. There have been efforts all over to organize domestic workers and make sure that you deal with exploitation. So I want to really introduce both of our guests to with a question of uh, when I heard you were organizing employers of domestic workers, to me, my initial thing was like, is that like organizing the Klan to help Black people? Like why are you organizing the employers as opposed to, I don't know. But the concept though, like after hearing about it, please talk about this, because I learned, right? I learned a lot, and I think I'm going to learn a lot more now, right? Because we know that there's been a history of exploitation of domestic workers going back, right? From sexual abuse to exploitation in terms of pay. We deal with this exponentially when you're dealing with people who are undocumented or limited English, so they have limited rights. So we know this is a national issue. We know that this is a thing, and that there are national organizations who are trying to organize them. Talk to me. Why organize employers, and introduce yourselves and what you're doing in this particular fight with Hand in Hand. And welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll kick us off, and then I'm sure Steve will have a lot to say too. Thank you so much for having us tonight and for your questions. And I really appreciate your framing. And I think what you're describing is really what many people think, especially people in movement. When we think about why would you organize employers are the people we're fighting against. But the way that we see it at Hand in Hand is really that we are depending on each other, right? And there are many reasons actually for employers to support domestic worker policy. Some of those reasons are like totally logistical, right? Like, I just had a baby and I have to figure out what to do with them in 3 months because I live in the United States and I must return to work, right? So like something has to happen and I'm going to hire a nanny. Okay, well, where do I find information about how to hire someone, how to do so ethically? I want to do the right thing in my home, but I'm busy 24 hours a day because I just had a baby. Well, when there's no policy that tells you like this is what you should do, then you do what most people in the United States do, aside from the 11 states that have passed policies like this one, and you go on Facebook and you find out what other people are doing, and you hear every range of different kind of possibilities, right? Where like some people say you should pay this and other people say you should pay this and other people say you should have health insurance and paid sick time and other people say I don't offer any paid sick time and it's been fine. So by creating policies that really support domestic workers, we're also making the case that employers get the clarity and researched information that actually benefits everyone. That's one reason. Another reason that employers generally support policies like this is because they know that there are bad actors and they don't want to be lumped in with people who are not doing the right thing. They want to be really clear that there is a right thing to do and they're doing it. There are many reasons, principled reasons as well, for supporting domestic worker rights. And, some of those, as you described, have to do with like the racist history of domestic work. We know that we live in the United States where domestic work has been historically casualized and deprofessionalized, because of the history of racism and slavery. And we know that it's sort of like continued to be deprofessionalized over time because 90% of domestic workers are women. Over half today are immigrants. And we live in a culture that doesn't value the work of these people. So making these jobs really good jobs actually benefits everyone across the board. And we know there's going to be a huge shortage, actually, of domestic workers and specifically home care workers as the population ages. So there's lots of reasons to support the domestic worker movement, whether you're a worker, an employer, or an ally. And I'll pause there and kick it over to Steve.
And before I would like to say thank you and also congratulations on being in the Hulu series, Rami, and congratulations on that as well.
The
Oh,
Hulu,
thank you.
can you say that clearer? The Hulu series, what?
Rami.
Rami, okay.
Yep, yeah. Check it out. 3 seasons. Thank you so much for having me on. I will save my thoughts on Trump and Farrakhan for next episode. Which I would love to talk about. I am so blessed and humbled to be on the front lines of this fight. As you said before, why would you bring on the employers? Well, as someone who is an employer of domestic workers, I am a prime example of someone who needs a domestic worker to just survive. Right, not just get by, survive. A couple of years ago, during the pandemic, I petitioned my Medicaid provider for more at-home help. And a judge ruled against me, saying I'm not disabled enough. So, with the below adequate level of care that I have just to survive, I need my workers who take care of me to be taking care of themselves. Right, if I have a worker who is underpaid, who is not given a lunch break, who does not receive the same benefits everyone else does, they're going to be tired, they're going to go without sleep, they're going to be stressed. That could result in me being forgotten about, me being dropped when transferred. I could be given the wrong medications. So why would I not fight to make sure that the people who take care of me have just food on the table, a living wage? Where if my workers are stressed, that puts me at risk. And obviously not just me. There are tons of disabled people in New Jersey who rely on the help of domestic workers. I have lost friends because they don't have enough care. That should not happen in America. And yet that happens every single day. But now I'm so proud to say that New Jersey is the 11th state to have a domestic workers bill of rights. And it's just the beginning of making sure that everyone who works a job like this is taken care of.
And shout out to Britnee Timberlake, the Assemblywoman Britnee Timberlake, and also now State Senator Britnee Timberlake and Senator Cody for the passage of that. When I was talking about the producing of the story, I actually didn't know it had passed, and when I looked it up, without surprise, Britnee Timberlake was on the legislation, and I'm like, yeah, figures, because you know that is like something she would do. I always call her the hardest working legislator in politics because of the way she the different causes and the different pieces of legislation that she passes. How did it pass in New Jersey? What was like is what you're talking about in terms of employers coming together? How did that work? Can you tell us something about the passage? Because Steve, you live in New Jersey, right?
Yeah, born and bred, 33 years.
Montclair. Right, cool.
I'm in Rutherford.
Okay.
I went to college in Montclair, MSU. There were so many factors, so many bodies, so many voices. I mean, I can think of 4 or 5 advocacy groups just off the top of my head. So many men and women who would take off from their job, just to show up in solidarity. And they can't afford to take off. That one day is the difference between food or rent. And yet they took off and showed up because they knew that it would be worth it. That, we've been at this for over 3 years. And we knew from day one that when this passed, 50,000 domestic workers would benefit from this. It's people like me, people like Erica, like you said, Senator Cody, Assemblywoman Timberlake, everyone working in solidarity, knowing that everyone would benefit. Again, I am an employer, right? I don't get the benefits for this, but I get the benefits that are not on this bill. Right? I get the benefits that are not shown in my bank account, say, but it's shown in my health. It's shown in my happiness. And even though the words like that are not in this bill, so many more people than just the domestic workers will benefit. And that's why it took every voice in the room to stand up and shout and say it is way overdue to help these people. Well, you're on mute.
While you were speaking, I thought about the way in which hand in hand this concept can be a transformative one with the words that you said, as in you might not benefit economically, but you benefit from understanding that you are better off if people economically are better off, right? If workers are better off, they would take care of, and it is something that can go all the way across. Like we're talking about service workers, health workers. We're talking about like all the people who are heroes when there's a crisis, and when the crisis is over, we don't want to pay them, right? And we talk about like we could transfer that from domestic workers to teachers to firefighters to like anybody who is like, yes, we need you like to clerks, right? Like who were the heroes during COVID? Were the people who were like working in grocery stores, et cetera, right? But after the crisis is over, we're like, nah, minimum wage, what's that, right? And I think that that thinking can be transformative. Um, is that part of the purpose of Hand in Hand overall? Like not just to 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 change the way we think about benefit, as in many people think if I can get more out of the worker for less economically, then I'm better off. Is it a way to actually promote a changing of that calculus?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Hand in Hand is really at its like highest level a pretty radical organization, right? We're attempting something that doesn't happen in most industries, and it's easy to do in the domestic worker industry because employers really get it, right? Like employers are relying frequently on 1 or 2 or 5 people to be in their home, working in their home, supporting their well-being. You don't really, it's not so easy, I think, in some ways to imagine like corporate CEOs having that same like one-to-one experience, but yes, it's exactly the same, right? Like everyone benefits when everyone benefits, right? And I think we really feel clear about that our highest value is that we are interdependent. We rely on each other, and we should really envision a future where it's possible across the board to say like we need each other, and how are we really living that? And we've done that in lots of ways. Like, yes, certainly with the passage and implementation of policy, which is a big part of our work, but we've also done at Hand in Hand campaigns to make individual employer homes, we've called them sanctuary homes, where it's safe for undocumented people. And in some scary times, like we feel really clear that employers have not just a responsibility to do the fair and legal thing, but to go above and beyond in the ways that they can to really support and really understand their role, and to, I like to say, to like in some cases spend their privilege, right? To make the lives of the domestic workers that they're relying on safer, healthier, more interdependent, in that like the person who is the employer is giving more, right? Is like really understanding the dynamic, the power dynamic, the ways that their relationship can change and grow over time, and understanding their role as an employer and what that means and what obligations are there for them.
Again, that goes into that transformative nature. Now, you're not in New Jersey. Where are you? Like, are you? I know that you are. That the push is a national focus. Uh, where is your individual focus, or is it national? Like, where are you located, and is this part of a larger national push, like to go state by state to do what's been done in New Jersey?
Yeah, well, I'm in Virginia. Personally, I live in Richmond, Virginia, but we work nationally. We're a national network. We've passed laws in 11 states, New Jersey, woo, and 3 cities, Philadelphia, DC, and Seattle. And there will be more campaigns. We're definitely going to be pushing for more policies across the country. There's over 2 million domestic workers in the United States, about 2.3 million domestic workers. That number is growing. And, we don't have policies to protect domestic workers in some really key states where there's a lot of domestic workers, like Texas, like Florida. So, I can't speak specifically to any policies that may be coming down the pike, but we'll definitely continue to advocate for policies that protect domestic workers everywhere in the United States.
And just so that we know what specifically we're talking about, when you're passing legislation to help domestic workers, um, what are some of those things that get pushed, and how does it get enforced?
Yeah, that's a great question. The policies vary based on the geography. In New Jersey, for example, we've won a variety of different types of provisions. So some of them we call ending historic exclusion. So what that means is like in most places in the United States, domestic workers have no recourse if they're discriminated against. So things like ending historic exclusions makes it possible for domestic workers to go to local departments of labor and say, I was discriminated against,
Okay.
and have a claim with the Office of Civil Rights. So that's one piece of our work. The other piece we call raising standards. And that's like when we pass in New Jersey, one of the provisions is a written contract between the worker and the employer. And we know how important this is because wage theft is rampant in the domestic worker world. So for example, if a domestic worker isn't paid for a shift because, for example, they were terminated from their position and then they just never got paid for the hours that they worked, they can go and make a claim. The written contract is critical for workers and really beneficial for employers too, because it lays out the expectations of the job and makes clear the rate of pay, things like rest and meal breaks, paid time off, things that domestic workers can and should have, whether, it varies state by state exactly what provisions must be in the contract and what provisions we would say, should be in a contract. But those things really protect workers because the worker can go back and say, well, I worked these hours, it's in the contract, here's what you said I should do, I've been doing all this extra work, so let's go back and change the contract to reflect that.
So basically, they have recourse in the form of like legal recourse if they have legal recourse, but is part of this also just to, like, there's a push for domestic workers to unionize. Is this legislation assuming that they are part of a union and can have representation? Because it seems like without that, right? Like without the actual representation, like if I'm a domestic worker, I'm not going to get a lawyer to sue, right? Like I'm not going to may not even know the laws
Right.
to be able to like get this enforced. So go to the Department of Labor. Does this go hand in hand with, like, say, like I know that you're organizing employers to get this legislation passed, but does it also assume that the workers themselves are organized with a union that can help enforce these laws?
Yeah, domestic workers are not part of a union by and large. Some domestic workers work under union contracts, but the vast majority do not. And so that's why these community-based organizations, like I think 6 or 7 organizations that worker-led organizations that showed up over and over in Trenton, bringing workers with them and testifying and testifying and testifying and sitting in offices and in long hearings. Those organizations are the ones who really kind of steward domestic workers through the complaint process, because you're right, there isn't good representation. And frequently we work with local legal aid programs if there's a next step. In Washington, D.C., for example, we're working with the Office of the Attorney General, and we're really hopeful that we can set up some kind of mediation process. And in a lot of the processes that we already have across the country, we work closely with other organizations to help move complaints forward. But there's a lot of difficulty around investigations and complaints because, as you say, domestic workers are not going to be able to hire a lawyer, number one. And number two, domestic workers are very, very nervous to go to the Department of Labor, especially if they're undocumented.
Right.
They don't really want to go to the government to ask for support. So that's definitely an ongoing issue, and one that's very tied to the fight for path to citizenship.
Okay. And and I was going to say also, like when you're talking about being tied to a path for citizenship, that is also like a part. So it really seems like this is part of a multi-pronged effort at looking at different aspects of labor, from, legalizing undocumented labor so that they would actually be able to have rights, so they would not be undocumented, therefore vulnerable. The ability to unionize, the ability to have a justice department and a legal apparatus that is not geared toward just punishing people who don't have legal status. within the United States. Um, where do we go? Like, where do you go from here, right? Like, where I think that part of what in a conversation that before, part of it was your organization may get a lot of pushback, right? And you even intimated before that your organization gets a lot of pushback because you're organizing employers. And it seems like you have a very incremental approach. Um, what is the strength of the incremental approach when there are all these other factors, right? Like these factors of, like, you pass these laws, but many people who are benefiting from them can't benefit from them based on, you know, not having a lawyer, not like what is the point of the passage of this legislation and and the movement, really, right, of organizing employers to do this when the actual legislation may not have, for structural reasons, may not have teeth.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I have a lot of answers. I agree with you in many ways that I think there are definitely moments in policy campaigns, especially ones like this that last a long time. You fight for policy and you fight and you fight and you fight. And many years go by, whole legislative sessions go by, and you haven't won, and then you win, and it's like, okay, but are people going to know about this? Like, what do we have to do? I'll say two things. The first thing is you can't fight a fight if you don't have a law in place, right? Like you even incremental change results in some change, right? And you can't work with illegal aid services to enforce a law that doesn't exist. You have to have something to work from. And I wish that we didn't have to work incrementally and we could make really big radical change in many, many, many ways across the country. And we were living in it. I mean, I would love to be living in a very different country than the country we live in, right? Like, but this is where we live, and this is like the governmental policy approach. That's one thing I'll say. The other thing that I'll say is hand in hand, and our partners across the country, we build really deep relationships. Steve has been part of this fight with Hand in Hand and with the Domestic Worker Coalition for like 3 years. Like, we know each other. And Hand in Hand works that way. We really believe in the power of transformative relationship. And that means individual relationships between worker and employer. It means individual relationships between organizers and organization and the people that are our members. It means working really deeply with our partner organizations so that when we show up in a coalition, people aren't like, who's this organizer organizing employers? We don't need them. They say, we need them. We want to subgrant money to them to make sure that employers are part of this conversation. So it is incremental. It's not a magic wand. Policy fights and implementation fights take a long time, but we believe in the power of what we're doing. And, I think sometimes things happen incrementally, and then kind of all at once. And we know there's a huge shortage on the horizon. There's already a shortage of home care workers in the United States. So I'm hopeful that we will see a sea change after all the incremental policy moves that we've been making for the last 15 years.
Erica, I think I'm gonna think backwards, and I think one of the things that comes to hurt us sometime is unnecessary policy. Now, I'm thinking like when I was growing up and childcare was needed. So in our community, one thing was there was somebody's auntie on the block did the childcare for most of, and which later resulted in a daycare center being opened. And at the daycare center that I went to, it was really community. Like my mother drove the bus to pick the kids up, and somebody else's mothers worked in the kitchen and um they did the meal, so they did the breakfast and lunch and the snacks. So but this was all the community mothers and families that came together who fulfilled the need that was needed in the community, and it really blossomed into something from pre-K all the way up to kindergarten. That was something that was maybe not so structured to something that became very structured. um, Daycare 100, just based on the need in the community. As people began to go to work, now there was a daycare that it went from a house to the building down the street, and then they began to hire um, the mothers who children attended for the needs of transportation, for cooks and things like that. But to do something, I think about that all the time, like in our high schools, and like at lunchtime when kids are throwing away foods, but yet during my time, most of the kids came to school because somebody's mother was in there really cooking a good meal, and they came because there was really good meals there, and that got them into the school to get the other resources of the kindergarten and the learning and things like that. But then all of these policies came by where the mills had to be regulated, so that stop the local mothers from cooking and things like that. But it it just seems like the need is there, the resources is there, but then that unneeded policy slows everything down and stops it from being productive. And but it's still, I just think that it still can really happen and still be successful, because when I hear now, like young mothers today, they'll get a job, but now they can't get the job because they can't afford this child care that they have today, because it's just too costly. Because something that was handled when I was coming up in the 70s, that was a couple of mothers sat around the table, drew up a plan, and said, "Okay, you do the cooking, you do the driving, you do the pre-K, you do the K, and everything," and it worked out. And then all of these other unnecessary policies came to just break that apart, and that's the unfortunate thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that we really want to avoid that kind of thing, right? Like over regulation that
Right,
makes community work really impossible.
right.
Um, I will say that domestic worker policy, by and large, is led by domestic workers,
Hmm.
and the National Domestic Workers Alliance is a real leader in convening domestic workers to say what they want in a policy. So it's not like a bunch of policy wonks or even legislators frequently like leading the charge. It's actually domestic workers who say, like, we want contracts, we want policy that regulates around discrimination and anti-discrimination policy. We want health and safety regulations in the homes that we
Right.
work in. Um,
Hmm.
and I think that's one of the ways that historically our movement has tried to avoid the overregulation or like unnecessary policy that really bogs down community.
Right.
I,
Yeah.
I know that we have reached the end of this segment, but we definitely want to get both of you back. And Steve, we definitely want to get you to back to talk about disability rights. I think that there may be a connection between the work that you do on disability rights and the movement within the United States, especially with regards to the last question, like when you get legislation passed, then there's that next step, right? The famously, I believe it's like what, 50 years of the Americans with Disabilities Act since it was passed, and the passage seemed to be only the beginning. I would love to get you back just to talk to you extensively about the different like your experience with the levels of activism and the things that have to happen to be able to just enforce the things that were passed a long time ago. And maybe that has some relevance to what's going on right now with domestic workers. Like the passage of the legislation often is just the beginning. It is the advocacy that has to take place afterwards that really is that next layer of that struggle. So definitely want to have both of you back to talk about the different levels of activism that you are involved in. Thank you so much. But one last question. And again, we ask this question of everyone. We are a hip hop streaming show, a hip hop talk show. And what is your favorite hip hop artist, individual, or group, or who you're rocking with now? Just shout someone out.
Especially when you have to get up and go do this work. What's the song that you may throw on and just inspire you?
I'm a Pete Rock and CL Smooth guy.
Okay.
I think
All right.
they reminisce over years one of the best songs ever made.
I agree.
Yep, I love Tribe.
Reminisce over you.
I've seen Tribe a couple
Okay.
times. Oh yeah, I'm down. I'm down.
All right. And liking you liking old school, because I believe you were born in the 90s.
I was
Right.
born in
And so right.
Yeah. So about 15 years ago, I went to my local library. I took out Paid in Full, and I went down that rabbit hole.
Okay.
All right.
And Erica.
I also listen to like the throwback hip hop stations in Richmond. There's like several of them, so I feel very, very lucky to live here. So yeah, like similar, a lot of Tribe, a lot of old Jay-Z, all that good stuff.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. We definitely have to have you back soon. And have a good evening. And thank you for coming on. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you for the work you do. And always know that you have a place here if you just need to get a word out and to let people know what you're doing or what you're up against and how we can be of assistance to help you get the work out, to let the people know how they can be of assistance to you as well.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Solidarity.
So we are now on the Payne report. Hello, sorry about my apology for the technical difficulties. I had to go into the settings, and apparently StreamYard changed the settings to do this authentication thing that I didn't know about until I tried it just now. Like I tried it, I was like, "What is this thing?" Went in settings, and I'm like, "Wow, no, we don't want our guests to be able to do that right now." So that is taken care of. I was not on last week, but glad that you are here and doing your thing. So
let me ask you a question, Jonathan. So
we thought Ed and I thought it was a conspiracy by you, John, to keep me off. Finally get me. Finally do me in.
Never that. You know, I enjoy our conversations a lot.
So, John, the congressman shouldn't have that problem going forward, right?
Should not have that problem going forward.
All right.
Yeah, I think we all had it for a second.
Yeah. And I'm technically challenged too. So
now, Congressman, we have queued up a post that you that was made of you, and when you were on the floor, and you were talking about the work of a fellow congressperson. Do you want to give us the background on that and all that good stuff and jump right in?
Yeah. Is it the if it's what I think you're talking about, is it the gentlelady from Georgia?
Yes, I think that the person from Georgia who may have things to say and stuff like that. So
it's a goddamn nut.
The hot mic is when you said the nut comment. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah. We unfortunately we serve on the same committee of Homeland Security, and it's clear Marjorie Taylor Greene's agenda is anything anti-American. So she's anti-immigrant, anti-Democrat, anti-democracy. So she has gotten herself placed on very strategic committees. She's on Homeland Security. She's on government oversight. And I believe she's even on judiciary, which, 9 times out of 10, most of them are attorneys or have some background in judicial issues. But she has gotten herself assigned to committees that are, instrumental in partially trying to destroy this government. And so we serve on Homeland Security together. I have been on Homeland Security since my arrival in the Congress. And so I have a commitment there. She's just there to try to, destroy anything that we might be working on at the southern border. The Republicans are enamored by the southern border. And so I just was really fed up with all of her antics, and I just kind of went in on her yesterday. I was, after I did it, I was like, oh, should I have done that? But I thought about it and said, yes, I should have. So that's what you have there.
Okay. All right. So the background of a lot of this, right? Very specifically, what are that when you're talking about immigration, et cetera, like what are the things that she is specifically doing that you're like, nah, this is crazy?
Well, they're trying to. They continue to say that the border is not secure at the southern border because of the number of immigrants that we have crossing the border. There was actually a hearing on beginning impeachment proceedings against the Secretary of Homeland Security, Mr. Mayorkas. And so that's what the background was. And, as a matter of fact, probably in a few days, we could potentially have a government shutdown. And their whole premise is they're not gonna keep the government open if we don't do something about the southern border. They are just totally hell-bent on the southern border, that it's not secure. All these people are coming across, and they just say it's an open border, and it's not. People have been coming across that border for hundreds of years, because it's actually when they stole the land from Mexico, people are actually still in the original country. So Texas was part of Mexico. So I just say people they're just going home.
And so they're threatening to close the government or shut down the government because they think that we're insecure, so they're going to shut down the government.
Right. Like that. Like how's that going to help the border?
Is there something that like I know that there have been a lot of debates over the years about doing immigration reform, right? And what immigration reform would mean, et cetera, right? Like, if there was a meaningful immigration reform, what would it look like? And do you think that's possible? Do you think that like this quote crisis at the border or what they're saying about Homeland Security, is there a bill that would deal with concerns about like immigration or people undocumented coming through the border? Are there bills that could be bipartisan in any way?
Well, sure. I mean, it's a matter of them joining on to legislation that we have proposed. It is a situation that is critical. I'm very concerned about it, to be honest. But I just think that we We just have two different ways of going about it. They're into penalizing and torturing and criticizing and trying to negative things to people. But we need to find out, what we need to do is find out what's going on in their countries that makes it so bad that they're willing to take their 10-year-old child and put them on top of a train and let them take a 1,000-mile trip to the border because that's better, because I have a better opportunity. That's deep. That is very troubling that's the alternative that they have, as opposed to staying in their own country, is taking that 1,000-mile journey and hoping they get asylum in the U.S.
Yeah, I think when I learned a lot when I was teaching, when one of my former students told me about family members, plural, who literally walked through countries, like multiple countries, to the United States to enter illegally. But that I'm like, I was like, wait, what do you mean walked? He was like, no, walked, right? Like as in like when you many people are taking journeys on foot through countries to get to the United States. And the question would be like, I guess that is a great question. Is the region so destabilized that we're not taking into consideration certain things that would have people flood toward the United States? Is there, when we look at New York City, right? Like New York City was going through a crisis with a lot of undocumented people that were that they couldn't afford, right? New York State's having that problem of having a lot of undocumented people that it couldn't afford. I think that, like, clearly I'm not trying to say Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think she's crazy or worse, right? But are there like Republicans who are not Marjorie Taylor Greene, like people who are not like into conspiracy theories and QAnon, who are working on this? Like, are there some Republicans in Congress who are not part of the far right wing who are actually trying to be productive?
Not many. They're all running the same actual, philosophy. If there were, then you would hear some movement and some bipartisan action. So they're basically all lined up in the same philosophy about it behind Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's running the drill. Somehow she's become the leader and they're following her.
Wow.
So therein lies the issue.
No,
are you going to play the tape? Are you going to play the tape or what?
Yeah, I was going to ask you. Yeah,
absolutely.
Congressman, where's Congressman Hoyer on this? I know he's done a lot of work in education. Is he still an ally?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Okay, so he is, and he's still.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know he's done great work with the community schools, and and I know he's running again, and ageism is one of the things that's challenging him. But I don't know. But it just go ahead, play the tape.
All right, I'm queuing it where you start talking about the congresswoman. Hold on. All right.
As I stated, this would be a joke if the stakes weren't so high and serious for the reasons laid out by my friend, Ms. Jackson Lee. I'm embarrassed for my Republican colleagues. They pretend that they're fraudulent impeachment against Secretary Mayorkas is about high crimes and misdemeanors. That's because they know well, as we do, that this so-called impeachment is nothing more than an extremist MAGA takeover of the committee in this Congress. Just look at who is in the driver's seat of this fraudulent impeachment. It's not the chairman of the committee. It's not even the subcommittee chair. It's an extreme MAGA backbencher who, proverbially speaking, shoved her leadership out of the driver's seat and now has the reins of the Congress and about ready to drive us all off the cliff. The chairman can proclaim that he has led this year-long investigation into Secretary Mayorkas' leadership that led to today's proceedings, but we all know that this is false. We are here because a member of Congress who believes the anti-Semitic conspiracy that Jewish space lasers coming down to Earth caused the deadly wildfires in California in 2018. Someone who has called Black people like me slaves to the Democratic Party. A woman who believes serving this great country in the military is throwing your life away. Someone who supports insurrections, who tried to destroy American democracy, who wants to defund the FBI, and someone who mocked survivors of a tragic school shooting. A member of Congress who who believes all that is brought us here. It is not Chairman Green's impeachment resolution that was referred to. This committee. Chairman Green has not even introduced an impeachment resolution. And it is not Chairman Green's so-called investigation into Secretary Mayorkas that got us here. We had an impeachment resolution before us weeks before the chairman's alleged investigation even concluded. Professor Bowman, do mere policy disputes between members of Congress and a cabinet secretary constitute impeachable high crimes and misdemeanors?
Congressman, they do not. I think the conclusion is universal among those who have studied this question, has been so since the time of the founding, that policy differences, no matter how severe, no matter how heated, are simply not grounds for impeachment.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to request unanimous consent to submit an article from CBS News titled, "Marjorie Taylor Greene Backs Off Forcing Vote on Second Alejandro Mayorkas Impeachment Resolution," dated November 30th, 2023.
Without objection, so ordered.
In which Representative Greene is quoted as saying, "We need to do this. We need to move forward." So I got guarantees. So we will move forward with impeachment. And with that, I yield.
I now recognize Mr. Payne, the gentleman from New Jersey, for his 5 minutes of question.
And so,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So,
Well,
that was the hello. That was the
Hold on for a
clip.
second, Jonathan. Go ahead. You're back.
All right, that was the clip, and that was a I could tell that it seems like you've had actually up close and personal conversations with this person, and you don't really respect their intellect at all. As in, is she just as scary in person? Is it like unbelievable? Like, oh my God, do you really believe this?
I mean, it's incredible the things that she's able to come up with, and she has the Republican Party being held hostage. They are hostage to Marjorie Taylor Greene. It makes no sense at all that this woman, can you imagine space lasers, Jewish space lasers coming down to cause the wildfires?
Right.
I mean, the stuff that she espouses, the shootings in Florida at the high school didn't really happen. I mean, I just and I took my time because I was so angry that I had to just slowly pace it out and just stand. I was so ticked off that I really just had to kind of slowly go through it, kind of repetitively in order not to go off the deep end. This woman should not be in Congress. And it is really the culmination of this country going down the tubes as we know it. We're in trouble. If Trump becomes the president again, and you have people like this woman in leadership, Lord, I'm worried about where we will end up again.
It's
frightening.
That is a congressman laying out his anxiety about a looming fascism that some of us are talking about, right. And she absolutely is one of those backwards accelerants of this fire of retrograde mess that they want to take us back to, and they, we cannot dismiss her as just being a lone knucklehead.
That's right.
She is a sitting member of Congress who thousands of people have voted for, right, and who will roll with her. Trying to implement some of the madness that she represents. It's ironic, and Congressman, I want you to appreciate this. We started the show with a conversation about Whitesboro, New Jersey, a town that grew, that emerged, that was created by our people who were refugees from the terror that overthrew Reconstruction in Wilmington, Delaware, back from 1898 to 1901. Right? We have a whole new generation of some crazy ass white folks who would love to take us back there. And we need to be really, really clear about that. And as intentional about out organizing them and beating them at any point of challenge that we have to beat their behinds at.
Absolutely. And let me say this. I and the time that we came up and said, I did not let my boys play with guns. Guns were not a toy that my boys were allowed to play with. But the way things are going in this country, and if you look, it's no mistake that every time you turn around, one of these white supremacists have an AR-15. That is the gun of choice. They are arming themselves as an army. They're all buying the same gun. So if one falls, they can pick it up and they have the ammunition that fits it. I'm telling black people, and this is totally against everything I believed in over the last 30 years of my life, we better learn to shoot. We better learn to shoot.
Wow. So you are so.
That's better coming from you than me. I'll go to jail if I say that too much.
So Congressman, you're saying that like based on what you're experiencing in Congress, you think that like it may be so dire in that way? Like the situation is so dire that we might have to learn to shoot?
Absolutely. We're going to have to arm ourselves.
Self-defense, baby.
Because they're doing it.
Wow.
Jonathan, remember we know we just a couple of days from the anniversary we used to finally refer to as the White Riot, right? These
Right.
folks are saying
Mhm.
that's that that didn't happen in 1900. That happened 2 years ago,
Right.
right? And these folks are
Yeah.
walking around, waiting for Trump to get in to exonerate all of them so they can go buck wild some more.
True. The White Riot of 2021.
And on January 6th, were any words spoken, any reflections on that day? Did y'all do anything on that day?
Well, it was on the weekend, so we weren't in session, but I saw a few comments from people across the country. But it was a day that we were not in session, so there wasn't a concerted effort from the Congress.
And prior to leaving session or coming back into session, were any words
Oh yeah,
negative?
there's been mention and discussion of it, in different settings since we've come back, but no real structured program with respect to it.
And those who are still standing that, some people still consider it, what was the words they were using? A tour, or some are very dismissive of it, or some are very still dismissive of it on the other
Oh
side.
yeah, absolutely. There's still people that are saying that Biden didn't win the election fairly.
Right.
Biden is not the president. I mean, we're about to go into a new presidential cycle, and people are still not saying that Biden is the president.
Six times.
It's frightening. It's really frightening because this whole notion about the United States has been always characterized as an experiment and fragile. Guess what? I see what you're talking about now. This thing could fall apart.
Yeah.
It's been a notion in people's minds, which has allowed it to continue over the period of time that it has. Guess what, baby? That time looks like it's up.
Wow. And again, you are literally on the front lines in this in Congress, and you see this every day. So when you are like, no, this is bad, right? Like this is like a time where you get your guns because you might need them for self-defense. Like when you are in Congress and this is your perspective based on the people that you see every day, I think that's a little bit more scary, right? Like,
absolutely.
And talking about like, oh, maybe it's hyperbole, maybe it's not that bad, maybe it's maybe it's just media, maybe I'm gaslighting myself, right? And when talking to you right now, probably one of the scarier conversations I've had, given who you are, where you are, and the conversations that you are having with the people you're having them with, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just my perception of what I see on TV. It is like from someone who knows and is there, who is became deeply cynical about the future, based on what's at stake and who is in these positions. Like I actually believe that there's a strong possibility that Trump will win, and not sure what will happen after that, right? Like I'm one of the people who thought he would win the first time, and to me, honestly, I will be surprised if he does not. Just in terms of the way things are going.
John, we cannot relax until the job is done. But in reality, we have to look at the situation. He could potentially still win.
Yeah.
But you have to remember that he's just got 35% solid backing from the MAGA wackos.
Mm-hmm.
Another few percentage points of Republicans that won't vote for Democrats. But we have to remember Donald Trump has done nothing in the last 4 years to make him more popular. You have to remember he lost the last time. So what has he done that would make him more popular than to win this time? So
I'm just saying, like,
I think we're in a good position. We just have to make sure we follow through to the
Mm-hmm.
end, because the independents that voted for Trump, that liked what he was saying, they're not with him anymore. All of his all of the 91 counts against him have torn into his support. So there are a lot of things tearing away from his support. He continues to talk about he was the guy that got rid of Roe v. Wade, and we know how popular saying that is. The Republicans continue to lose every time somebody ties themselves to tearing down Roe v. Wade. So, and he's running around bragging about it. So, the odds are in our favor. We just have to make sure we follow through. Got to make sure our young folks don't, do this sit on the sideline nonsense because he's too old.
Mobilize, organize.
Because he's too old. He's too fat, or
But-
whatever the reasons are. He's too old. He's too old. He's too fat. Whatever it is, y'all gotta suck it up. Put your big
but
boy pants on.
Because
the
what
thing
you
makes me nervous is that I just finished talking to Reverend Tillard, who seems like he's now a Trump supporter, right? Wasn't before. Not the only conversation like that I've had among Black people who surprised me, being more Trump supporters. And what's going on in Gaza. A lot of young people are totally turned off of Biden. I think Michigan might be bad, might look worse based on a lot of reactions to, the domestic implications of foreign policy.
but
I'm a little nervous.
but Jonathan, we have
Anybody,
found
any
we have
black person that says they're supporting Donald Trump is mentally ill.
count
They're mentally ill. Because if
Congress,
they knew what Donald Trump thought about them, they would. I mean, you got to be sick to say that. You got to be sick, or self-hating, or self-deprecating, or whatever. That man.
Subsidize.
Whoever said that, ask him to tell Donald Trump to let him move into one of his buildings. You see how that works out.
Well, Congressman, we got Council President LaMonica McIver on, and right now she has a bill that's coming up that brings back to memory when we were in school, and that is making sure that civics is at the front and and with educating young people on the importance of being engaged. And like you said,
The legislation that she just passed was that the city council just passed was to give 16-year-olds the right to vote,
16-year-olds,
and
right?
16-year-olds the right to vote inside of the Board of Education elections. Welcome on, Councilwoman, and was very happy to see you the other day, and I'm very elated at the work you're doing in this conversation about that. I was being really cynical, and the congressman was being both optimistic and a little cynical about the future. What you did last week made me very optimistic, in that you were pushing things that would help democracy into the future and giving 16-year-olds that right to vote. So can you talk about that? Because it's nationally important legislation.
Right.
It's gotten actual national attention for what it did. It's kind of groundbreaking in that.
So, first of all, thank you guys so much for having me on as always. It's a pleasure to be on. It feels like I haven't been on in a while. And definitely it's always great to be with our Congressman Donald Payne Jr. So definitely a delight to see you all. And yes, we got it through finally. We've been working on this piece of legislation for quite some time now to be able to give young people here in the city of Newark, 16 and 17-year-olds, the opportunity to choose the leaders that represent them. You guys have heard me say multiple times coming onto this platform and this show of why I joined the council, why I decided to run for elected position, how I got started in politics and civics and learned all about democracy. I mean, I had hands-on training, and our young people, they don't necessarily have that right now. Like, I feel like a lot of young people, they are so engaged, they are so informed. They always tell them they're so woke. Like, I never met a bunch of young people so woke. But at the end of the day, they are not able to. They weren't able to participate in the electoral process for a system that directly impacts them. And for me, I feel like people that are closest to the pain, they should be closest to the policy. And that
That's
means
right.
selecting people that are able to be able to select the people that represent them. I mean, in America, democracy is just like on a thin line here. I mean, every day we turn
Mhm.
on the news, there's some craziness happening. Young people are being faced with a lot of things like books are getting banned. People are telling them what they can learn, what they can't learn, picking what kind of curriculum. And let's not even go into school shootings. There are things that are directly impacting them. And then those people who represent them, they don't have that opportunity to choose who these people are. Like it's unrealistic. And at the end of the day, like it's one of the reasons why I'm, wanted to be a true champion of this piece of legislation. And I thank the the social New Jersey Social Justice, New Jersey Institute of Social Justice, for being a champion as well and working on this because at the end of the day, it's very important. This is very important to me for young people to be able to, make the selection. So I'm just, proud to say that here in Newark, we're not running away from democracy. We're not trying to strip democracy. We're actually expanding. And that's what happened this week. And as Jonathan mentioned, Newark became the largest community in the United States to expand voting rights since 1971, since
Mm.
we first dropped the age of voting to age 18. And we just gave 7,000 more people the opportunity to participate in the electoral process. And it's something that I'm proud of, and it feels good as I think about retirement, that I did something like this. And it's definitely close to my
That's right.
heart when I be able to leave because you want to be able to leave and say you did something that really mattered.
And Council
And,
President, and we have to stay on top of it because the reality is that I'm class of '85, and it was in when we turned 16 that we had a class that would talk to us about the importance of voting and why we would vote, and we would have several sessions and then we would register to vote. And I know a couple of years ago, if you were going to turn 18 in that year, you could register to vote, but civics has just not been a part of our curriculum. So what you're doing is phenomenal, and I hope it goes city by city, it catches fire, and that we just take the word out and get more young people involved and more schools involved, and that we continue to keep this moving forward because it's very important.
Ironically, in 1971, I have a comrade who's been throwing rocks since then at this system by the name of Lawrence Ham, who some of us affectionately refer to as a Dimu Chunga, who was given that name by the late great Amiri Baraka, who was 17 in 1971 and was the youngest person appointed to a school board in the country, but could not vote in any school board matters. It was an incredible contradiction, and it's
Yeah,
amazing that it took this long arch or this long march took this long for us to get to this point, but it is long overdue. So kudos to everybody who put in that work to continue the fight for democracy and expand our base so we can truly do what we need to be doing to change the game.
there was a push during the hearing, right? Like uh, for there to be like a push for teaching civics or to attach civics education as a mandate for the voting part. I was there. I spoke about like uh, mandating or teaching or offering or pushing kids learning how to debate, right? In terms of arguments, how to make arguments, how to advocate, right? Like those things. Um, is there a curricular uh, mandate that the city will do? How will we like going from here? That it passed. I'm very happy that it passed. Um, where do we go from here to make sure that um, we have an educated populace among the new generation of people who are voting?
So there are a few things that need to happen. I mean, one, we need for the New Jersey Board of Education to implement civics back into the curriculum. Like the city council, that's not a body of what we do. Like we don't govern New York public schools in terms of saying, look, this is what you do, X, Y, and Z. I think there is some push to put forward, which we do have coming forward from the council to the New Jersey legislative body to ask them to have the New Jersey Board of Education to instill civics, a resolution on behalf of the council supporting that they put civics back in the classroom. And I mean, honestly, I think in certain districts, they do teach some um, areas of civics. They do have some civics involved, but I think it's at a like volunteer, kind of, I want to do this kind of thing as a district versus the, New Jersey Board of Education, just like they say, you have to have health and phys ed. Well, you got to have civics. Like civics needs to be a mandatory subject that you're learning, and I think that got taken out years ago, and it just hasn't
Hmm.
come back. I think that in Newark, of course, Newark can take the opportunity to be able to do that on their own, I'm sure, and make it work. And those are conversations that we have had, and we're going to be continuing to have with the Newark Board of Education about what they can do, what is their jurisdiction to be able to educate, get civics, back into the classrooms with our young people. So that's a conversation. I think there's a conversation to be had at the state level with them, which all of these things are in planning, to be able to have. But and regardless of such, right, because we know how this thing works, we are prepared to move forward in terms of hosting workshops, doing some training for young people along like together with like the NAACP, the New Jersey Social Justice, the New Jersey Institute of Social Justice, and other nonprofit
Yeah,
organizations
Abbott leadership would be
that are
great.
already doing this work. Abbott leadership and a few other folks who are doing this to be able to pull together so we can collectively start to host these workshops to educate young people on what voting is and how the electoral process works and all of those good things. So we're still planning to push forward, and even for their parents, right? What does that? I mean, parents, like, do they know what this means? Like, what does it mean for their youngsters in their household? So there's a few things that definitely need to happen, in leading up to this. But at the end of the day, I truly feel I agree with some of the things that were being said, Jonathan, at the meeting about civics being put back because we should have that, regardless if we would have passed this or not. Civics should have been in classrooms anyway. Like
That's right.
I don't get it. Like you're basically teaching young people. Your job as an educator is supposed to be to make the best, the most productive person who is going to be the most productive citizen in this world that we live in. And being a productive citizen means that you are engaged in the democratic process. You're engaged in your civic duty, in this United States of America. So great to be here, right? These are things you're supposed to, be able to know how to do. How do you know how to do it if no one's teaching you? You just turn 18, they give you a paper, tell you to like register to vote, and you like, yeah, great. Okay, I'm gonna go out here and I'm gonna do it.
Now what?
It's foolish. It's like, now what? What do you do, especially if you don't have a household, which many of our households here in the city of Newark, voting is not at the top of the priority. Like they're not, we talk about the low numbers in school board
Right.
elections. It's not at the top of the priority to talk with their youngsters about voting and why it's important. And I
I,
tell
I,
you,
And Council
I,
President,
I,
a couple of
was
things. Did you get to talk about it at the League of Municipalities? Um, I do want to encourage to get back to, I know there's law written around on election days that people should be given ample time to vote before or after. And and we put that out there so people won't feel so threatened, that you, the choice of being late for work or going to vote. So those little things, that we have to make sure the community knows. And when they don't know things like that, they're gonna go to work because if it's a choice between going to vote or losing my job, and they don't know that that law is out there, they're going to go to work. And so we just have to get as much information out there as possible. But did you get a chance to talk about it at the league?
To talk
What you
about
were
this?
doing? Yeah.
No,
Oh, okay.
I did not talk about this at the league. Some of my hot topics at the league this year was, of course, affordable housing,
Mm-hmm.
always, and talking about homelessness and different things of that nature, and some interesting things on the wealth gap here in New Jersey. But that'll take us until 11 o'clock tonight to get into that. But at the end of the day, those were some of the
We're
things
gonna
that.
come back.
Yeah.
We're gonna
Hey,
get
this
into all
means
of
you have
that.
to get you back more often to talk about the things that you are doing.
For sure, for sure.
We
Well, we're going to go
I,
ahead.
on one of the points that you made, right, like about civics, um, a lot of people are like, these kids won't know civics. These kids don't know civics, and I was like, don't have the kids have a higher standard than we have for adults. I think that to some extent, right, because they're in the educational process, they may know more at the end of the day, based on the initiative. I think one of the things that you created was a need, right? Having the right to vote, I think, was proper to come first because I think that if people are like, hey, we need civics, hey, we need civics, I think that now we have a push as to why. So I think that that cart coming before the horse is the only way you get that horse to go, right? Like that was the way that like giving kids the right to vote, that was absolutely, I think, the right thing because now we can have a better conversation about what are those things that we have to put in place because we've been talking about civics for years and doing nothing about it. Give these kids the right to vote. Now let's see what you're gonna do.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. One of the things I was gonna say is, like even adults, right, who their parents who are, even when I do my council member for the day program and young people come and I'll hear people say to me all the time, people that are my age, people who are parents to these young people that are 14, 15, and 16 years old, they say, I don't do politics, no politics for me. I don't do that, I don't have time to engage in politics. And I always tell them, like, people are always saying I don't do politics. Like, you don't do politics, but politics is doing you each and
Say
every
that. Say
day.
that, daughter. That's
Like,
right.
every day is doing you down from the time you become a fetus inside of a womb. Politics is doing you up until
Right.
you are no longer here anymore. Until the Lord or whoever, your creator, calls you back home. Everything you do each and every day, politics is doing you from waking up in the morning. So it's like, we're into this mindset where we're like not engaged. When we feel like, oh, politics is just like mushy. We don't want to deal with that. But at the end of the day, that's just not the answer. The answer is not to say you don't do it. The answer is to say I do it. I want to be informed. I want to be engaged. I want to know what's going on. I mean, I tell people you don't have to be a professor of politics, but you need to be informed on the basics, like in order to survive in the world that we're in today.
Hmm. And we have to get our voting numbers up. Everybody should be voting.
But therein lies why we have all politics are local, right? Having started this show almost 12 years ago, right? And trying to make sure that, we educate folks and that we try and inform them. One of the things the mayor said, Zaid, and you recall this when he was on last month, one of the things he said was as he was touring the state and having this conversation about running for governor, one of the things he talked about was is he said that, people were saying that, if he grew the voting base by 10%, he could
Hmm.
actually win, right?
Hmm.
And that people were afraid, particularly when you start talking about young people being given the right to vote at 17, right? That they actually afraid because, already in the state of New Jersey, there are more registered Democrats than there are registered Republicans. And so, there's this real fear, right? But
Hmm.
when it comes to us and you talk about black folk and you right, Councilwoman, when you say, uh, you know, when you talk to most brothers and sisters in our community, that's the first damn thing you hear. Oh, bro, I don't do that, bro. I don't talk politics. But we can talk football and basketball and all of that. And then all we hear is complaints about everything that's wrong in the city, right?
Right.
But you say,
But
well,
you
wait
don't
a minute.
vote.
Right. You know, you want to complain about the council members, but did you vote for any of them? Well, what the hell are you talking about? I mean, you ain't got the right to say nothing about nobody sitting on the council. You live in a ward, but you ain't vote for one of them. Oh, bro, because I don't do politics. Well, bro, like the councilwoman just said, well, politics is doing your ass,
That's
right?
right.
But you didn't come out to vote. And that continues on, right? So I think that from our perspective, you know, I mean, listen, I think what y'all did on the council, allowing them young people to vote in education and you know on I mean, but we've got to get to the point where we're sitting down with our families and we having more of a conversation than just talking about the I don't want to ruin nobody's night by saying Dallas Cowboys, but you know we want to talk about more than the Dallas Cowboys. We want to talk about, what's really happening. And it's true, right? We've got to talk about, whether we like it or not, we got to talk about what will this country look like if Donald Trump becomes the president? What will it look like? Right? And we can't depend on Mama Baraka to be the only one running the country in her 80s telling us to be careful because fascism is on the way. I mean, who else is going? I mean, come on, Larry's in his 70s, right? And so
Just his 70s.
Right?
And remember, Ed, that was President Obama's first strategy. He talked to young people and sent them back to their homes to have a conversation with their parents and ask them, why do they determine once a Baptist, always a Baptist? Why do they just vote like they vote? Because they've always voted like that, and those young people began to turn. They turned the whole conversation by having those conversations with those parents. And then now coming out of this last presidential election, because the young people did come out and vote, the complete opposite wanted to happen. You had a whole body of people who wanted to raise the voting age because all of the young people came out. So yeah, we have to be mindful of what is going on, and when we aren't paying attention, everybody else is paying attention and trying to figure out how they could structure the game so that they can stay in control. And we need to be very mindful of that.
Absolutely. And I tell you one thing is for sure, when you want, in my mind, if you want to talk revolutionary, what y'all did on the council is revolutionary.
That's
And the
right.
truth is, LaMonica, that's what y'all supposed to be doing, right? I mean, it would be a disgrace, right? Particularly to the legacy of Imam Amiri Baraka in this city. If all y'all black council people were sitting there and the mayor's sitting there and we didn't do nothing to move the ball, I mean, come on. This is moving the ball, right? So that and you know this, Zaid, right? Kwame Ture, in his book Black Power, he talks about that. What is real black power? When you get electoral power and you could change the conditions of your people, right? I mean, that to me, what y'all did this week is revolutionary, right? And that is going to help change the trajectory of those young people's lives. I'm not saying that because I love politics. I'm not saying that because I understand the process. No, I'm saying that because I know what they don't know now. Give them another 5 years, they're gonna understand the severity of them being in the game, right? And that's why Zaid fights so hard at all of these different marches and rallies that has something to do with legislation, because the brother understands what all that represents, right? And the beauty of it is, with you, Councilwoman, is that you started at a young age, right? And so you able to sit there as the council president. You understand what it means to be in the game and what it means to be there as the council president and be able to shape legislation for our people. So congratulations and kudos to you for that.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And thank you to my other council members as well. I mean, definitely, it's not a one-man show. It's called, partnership. And definitely shout out to the South Ward Councilman, Councilman Patrick Council, who was a co-sponsor and helped champion this piece of legislation. And to all of the nonprofit organizations, to Vote 16 New Jersey, Vote 16 Newark, the young people, NAACP, and Ryan Haygood and his team, all of them who really, kind of help get this over the wall.
And did you have a vote across the board? Everybody was in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Beautiful.
Beautiful. Supposed to go. I want to
Yep.
thank you, two daughter, for showing up on the streets with us recently. Hold on a second, Donna.
Go ahead.
Right. When we lost Imam Hassan Shakur, that was, even though we've done all this work to bring the violence down in our town in a very good way. I mean, we're at a 60-year low in terms of homicide, but when it happens, it is still as traumatic and and maddening as it can be. I used to be on the front door of what was 257 South Orange Avenue for 3 years, right? And and there's, we still don't know who actually did it, but the fact that somebody would dare do something like that, right? It was important for our community to come out and to embrace Old Mosque 2025, and that's the Mother Mosque, right? The way all of you did. I want to just say that that meant a lot to a whole lot of us in a real, in a personal way. So I want to shout you out on that too.
Thank you, Baba. I appreciate you, and definitely, I mean, definitely a loss. It's still unbelievable to me. I mean, Imam Hassan Sharif was just so amazing. I mean, just a good brother all around, and it's very sad, and it's just like I said at the rally, it's just so disheartening to know that somebody would take his life, and you know, it's just disheartening to believe that it's not hands off certain folks in our community. It definitely being an imam, and it's our prayers go out to his family, to the masjid that we, have a very close relationship with. That they get through the grieving process, because it definitely is one, and it's a true, tremendous loss for the city.
Yeah, that's absolutely that Zaid just said about what that mosque means to all of us, right? And for that, that was sacred ground, right? And Zaid and I talked about this on the last show. We dedicated it to the imam, but I mean, my life changed at 12 years old in that building. I mean, for a young boy to be able to, parents allow him to accept Islam and join the junior FOI and go through that whole process for almost 40 years of my life, right? So, and for that to happen, it just didn't seem real. It's like, wait a minute. I mean, if violence is going to visit anywhere, it ought not visit that particular sacred ground, but it shouldn't visit no house of worship, right? If we can't go anywhere and surrender ourselves and give ourselves to God at a place of worship, and now it becomes a killing field. I mean, when did that happen? What are we doing? I mean, what especially when you talk about right? When does that happen? So, I think that, it was right and exact for those of us who were upset to come together and voice our opinion, of how we all felt about it, and to, wrap our arms around that family and wrap our arms around the community, to simply say, look, community and elected officials got something to say about this. Because in the city of Newark, the mayor is correct, right? Newark is a Muslim town, whether you like it or not. Period. Right? And when I was coming through, there was nowhere you could go coming down South Orange Avenue. Let me tell you something. I don't care where you start. If you was a fool and you were coming down and you saw the Muslims or the sisters on one side and you were a fool, you got to
lift that ass up. That's right.
Right?
Right.
Right. You didn't want that. And where did that level of disrespect come from? I don't know. And that's why when the mayor was saying what he said, I don't think he needed to say, pardon, because he was right when he said, under the leadership of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the one thing that we knew, all of us, was that we needed to provide security for our imams and our ministers, right? Because and especially when you talk about Imam Sharif, what he was doing wouldn't be considered popular. What, cleaning up the neighborhood, trying to feed people, move people around, right? That's not popular amongst the people who are trying to kill each other. That's not popular amongst them terrorizing our community. That's not popular.
And they say he also provided safe surrenders too.
It was a part of our
He was.
ecosystem. That's right.
Mm.
And whoever did that need to turn his black ass, or so we assume that he's black, need to turn his black ass in.
Yeah.
Well, listen, there's no place big enough to hold them. But I tell you this, one thing is for sure, Councilwoman, we definitely, appreciate the work that you all are doing on the council. Um, you know, and being the youngest president, to sit there, that's mad respect, because you holding it up. We don't want to say holding it down because that's negative, but you holding it up. And we got mad respect for that, and those of us who know you and
might
love
have to steal that from you.
we have to hold our peace, or as my father used to say, we got to hold our mule, right? Because
All right.
yeah, and say things, they got to remember who you are and what you mean to this community, right? And so for us, we have to say, you know what, she's a public official, okay, y'all can get on that level, but I've hit you up personally, and I've said to myself, they got to be careful now,
Right.
if they start crossing the line, you got some brothers that know how to cross the line too, right?
Wow.
And,
Just
and
keep me
say,
in prayer, brother. Keep me in prayer. Keep me in prayer. Is what I say.
Council President, are you working with other municipalities to hopefully see that they bring this legislation forth?
Not yet. I mean, no one
Okay.
has. I haven't definitely reached out to them. Like, no one's reached out to us. I know that there was some municipalities that were trying to get it through. Like, for example, I saw Jersey City. They had some children that were rallying around
Mhm.
getting it done. And a school board member. I mean, at this point now, our governor, as mentioned at the State of the State, has said that he
Huh?
supports this initiative. I'm sure
All
that you
right.
guys have heard that there is an assemblyman, I believe the last name is Stack, Assemblyman Stack, Stacks or Stacker,
Mm.
has introduced legislation
Robert Stack.
to make this mandatory across New Jersey for 16 and 17-year-olds to vote, and I think they should. I mean, I think New Jersey
That's
should do
right.
that. It's just that Newark wasn't going to wait on that. Like, we don't
That's
have
right.
time to wait to do what we do here in the city of Newark all the time on the state of New Jersey. But I think
Mhm.
that that's something that they should do, and I'm grateful to the governor for his support as well, to say that he supports this and the support of the initiative. So we'll see where it's going. I think it definitely opens up a lot of conversation and opportunity for other towns. Do what they need to do for their young people and consider it. And anybody, if they're watching this, or if they want to do it, they want to talk or chat about it, I'm definitely always one phone call away to be able to chat with anybody who may be interested.
Okay. And we'll let them know.
Yes, for sure. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. It's
Mm.
always good to see y'all. I'm so sad I couldn't get on a little earlier. It's just been a crazy day. Just a crazy, it seems like we're in like what day 12 of the new year, and it has just
Yeah.
been so busy. Like, oh my God, I
Nonstop.
can't believe it's day 12. Feels like it's already March, with all of the whirlwind that we have going on. Some good, some bad things. That has occurred, and we're
Mhm.
just working overtime and super busy. But as I always say, I'm from Newark. I'm proud of it. Proud of the work that we're doing. We're not perfect. I gotta always say that because people think when you say you proud and of the work, they think that you
Mhm.
mean perfect. No, that's not what I mean. I mean, I'm proud of what we've done underneath our great leadership of our great mayor on this side of the planet. Our Mayor Rashid Baraka, we're just excited about everything that he's doing. And underneath his leadership, the work that we get to do, which makes this work easier. People don't understand that the council and mayor's balance. It has to be some balance. We have
Right.
to be on a good road together because we wouldn't be able to get things done without one another, with both of our governments together working, unified, which is truly important. So thank you, Ed. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Baba. I love you, Baba. I love you. I love you.
Well,
I
as
love
you
you.
leave us, and as you was doing that end of year work and this New Year's
Donna
She wanted to
froze.
ask you the ritual question. She froze.
artists, when you listen, what artists and what songs were you listening to?
Oh my gosh. What was I listening to today? Today I was listening to Meek Mill's and Rick Ross' new album. And it was, that was getting me through the week a little bit. But mostly today, I play music like all day today. But that definitely, yesterday I was listening to Aretha Franklin. So every day is something different. But hip hop today, definitely Meek Mills and Rick Ross for sure. So check it out and don't knock it. You could come out of KRS-One a little bit and listen to some new stuff.
And get some Meek Mill and Rick Ross. Okay, all right.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Have a
Thank
great
you.
weekend.
All
Appreciate it.
right.
Good
Same.
night,
Thank you
Council.
for all your work. Take care.
Thank
Get some
you.
rest.
All right. Well, listen, y'all. If I tell y'all, the last thing they want, the last thing any of these people want is for us to grow the electorate, right? Because remember the mayor said, it just needs to grow by 10%, right? Here in this state, and it would be lights out. But they don't want our community to be educated, particularly around politics. I mean, it's to their advantage, right? For us not to really know what's going on. But I think the first place to start is exactly where they're starting at, right? Here to get them kids involved, because all of them kids are in school, right?
Well, I'm
All get an
working on.
education. That would be
Well,
great.
I sent us out a note. We had DMC at Seton Hall yesterday, and he had some very positive words. And Ryan, I'm trying to get them with you. Um, and just to think, right now he is on tour, reaching out to high school students and college students. And he spoke about at the height of his career when they did Walk This Way, and he was talking about recording that, and when they went in the studio and they did it, and and it came out and it was a big hit, and he woke up the next morning and he had wanted to commit suicide. So these highs and lows, and he was just, and at that time he was like, it never even crossed his mind that he could have just picked up the phone and talked to somebody. He was a young person at that time, but he was, the message he really wanted to get out to the young people is that when you have these despondent feelings and things are hard, that you can always, rather than take that, take yourself out of here, find somebody to talk to. So we're going to really work hard to get him here with DJ Rhino so we can have a conversation about that. And I'll keep you posted, Rhino, about that. Okay.
Cool. Definitely. Yeah, I saw.
I got an announcement too, Rhino, that I want to include in your segment because it belongs there. But go ahead, go do your thing.
No, I was just going to say, I saw DMC great chant, and just talking about how dealing with depression and stuff around they like the biggest crossover. Y'all, can y'all hear me? Y'all can hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. Yeah.
All right, because
Let me go on mute.
myself.
Yeah.
Like mute yourself and come back and see if it changes.
1, 2. 1, 2. All right. Y'all hear me? All right. Yeah, but yeah, no, that Drink Champs was super long, but it's worth it, man, because that DMC is a iconic legend. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about Run DMC, like the first real hip hop, our first real rap superstars. You know what I mean? And to hear all of the details that DMC was dropping in that Drink Champs, man, like I tell everybody to watch that one because he gets into the details of the group getting together, the sounds that were taking place, where they got their styles from, their dressing style, everything that happened in the business, the endorsement with Adidas. I mean, he went into full detail of everything on that Drink Champs interview. So I would definitely recommend that to anybody who would be interested in something like that, man. DMC really, it was a tell-all. You know what I mean? So definitely go check that out on Drink Champs. But
And he has a comic book line too, huh?
yeah,
Yeah.
DMC he's a superhero, man. He's one of our first rap superheroes,
Yes.
Really,
So.
really. Also, speaking of DMC, one of the Hollis crew, one of the brothers down with the Hollis crew, DJ Hurricane. It's his birthday today, so I want to say happy born to Hurricane. It's funny because back when I was younger, I used to always see Hurricane because Hurricane was always like part of the Run DMC entourage. And anytime I saw Hurricane, I would have put money that he was DMC's brother, but apparently he's not. He's not DMC's brother, but he looks so much like DMC to me that I used to always say, "Oh, that's DMC's brother. That's Hurricane. That's DMC's brother." But they're not brothers. They're not related, but they are both Hollis Queens. And big salute to DJ Hurricane. He used to be the DJ for Davey DMX. Matter of fact, he was a MC for Davey DMX, and he was a DJ at one point for the Beastie Boys. So happy.
And what's with the Raekwon? What's with Raekwon?
Happy born to Raekwon. It's also his born day today. Raekwon, the chef, coming from Wu-Tang Clan. I still got to check out. I still haven't read his book yet. He has a book out called "From the Staircase to the Stage," by Raekwon. Yeah, so definitely go check that out. I got to check it out myself. I haven't read it yet. I'm actually behind on my reading as far as as far as rap literature. Like I still got to read "Don't Sweat the Technique" or "Sweat the Technique" by Rakim. Chuck D put out a book of his artwork and stuff. I still got to check that out. So I'm a little behind in my my rap literature as far as the books.
And did you hear Council President said that today she was listening to Meek Mill and Rick Ross today?
Oh, so. Yeah. They're doing some stuff together. I know right now. They're putting out some kind of project together, Rick Ross and Meek Mill. So yeah, definitely got to look out for that. Maybach Music. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have a whole lot to talk about. I've been prepping for the last couple of weeks now for this jazz event that I'm.
This jazz event you putting out? Okay.
Yeah. It's going on Sunday. On Sunday, starting at 11 a.m. And it's going all throughout the day. It's probably about 12 hours. It's 8 DJs. It starts at 11 a.m. I'm going on around 2 p.m. So check me around 2 p.m. Twitch.tv/Rhino CMZ. That's on Sunday, the 14th. So yeah, that's but let me see if I can pull up the info. Yeah, it's so it's the jazz cookout. It's called the Winter Jazz Cookout. It's going to be DJ Candy B, my man Big Stove, who was basically the one who pulled me in on this. Big Stove 16, then myself at 2:00. Then it's going to be Seaside FM at 3:30, DJ Fam 1 at 5, DJ J Finesse at 6:30, G Class the DJ at 8 p.m., and then DJ AJ 2 at 9:30. So that's going on Sunday. And then tomorrow, probably going to be I'm still going to be prepping for that. So I'm probably going to do an extended jazz set tomorrow at my regular time, 3 p.m. For the shake up on Twitch.tv/Rhino CMZ tomorrow at 3.
Now, who was the jazz person that used to work with Biggie. I remember watching it on a documentary. He lived in a neighborhood with Biggie, and he was teaching him about the beats on the drums.
Oh yeah, I don't remember his name. I thought you were gonna
Yeah.
say him too, man, because that's what Biggie ended up sampling on his first single.
Um,
But yeah, I don't remember the brother. I remember
we
what
was
you're talking.
watch, yeah, when we watched that documentary, you had us
Yeah,
watch. Yeah. So
yeah, yeah. So
okay, well the jazz went to cookout. Okay.
yeah, the Jazz Winter Cookout is going on this
We're gonna
Sunday.
get our ribs and potato
Without
salad.
TV. Yeah, yeah. And,
Beef ribs.
definitely tune in, man. Check us out. It's gonna be jazz all day. It's gonna be what it's gonna be. It's gonna be like I said, it's gonna be 8 DJs. They're gonna play whatever jazz they want, and they're gonna play it however they want. You know what I'm saying? So it's gonna be interesting to see the different DJs and their approach to the genre.
Let me make this announcement, and it's a difficult one for me personally, but I related to your segment for this reason. Last year we lifted up, and I want to lift it up more. Dear Mama, the documentary that was done on Pac, and of course Pac was a cover of the Black Panther Party. Right after Pac was killed, another young hip hop artist was killed who was very close to Pac, and his name was Yaka Gaddafi. Right? Yaka Gaddafi was the son of one of the baddest freedom fighters we ever had, and it was his father, Sekou Odinga. Right? Sekou Odinga transitioned this morning after a valiant fight against an illness that took him out of here. Sekou was one of those young men who was trained by the late Herman Ferguson on a gun range that Herman Ferguson created after Malcolm's assassination.
You froze up on us, Zayed. You still there? You froze up. Yeah, it looked like you froze up on us.
Yeah, I don't think you know he froze.
Yeah.
Is Donna frozen too?
Donna, you frozen? Oh, okay.
I'm because I read somewhere today that a rapper from our area was on his way to LA and died en route today, and I was trying to get you the name. Um, he was driving on his way out to LA, but I'll send it to you tonight.
hmm
Yeah.
And we got to be careful too, man. A lot of times, man, when some of us are murdered or whatever, they try to for some reason they try to throw the rapper title on us. You know what I mean? And especially if it was a violent death, they try to throw the rapper title on. Oh,
No, I think it was a car accident. I think it was a car
yeah.
accident.
Okay.
Yeah, they were
Yeah, you just
driving,
gotta watch out
driving
for that,
across.
because now they trying to pinpoint rappers now, or try to make it seem like rappers are dying. And rappers are dying, but they try to put that title on people. We don't even know them. We don't know them as rappers, or we don't know them. Period. And they try to say, "Oh, the local rapper." So we got to be careful with that. But yeah, send me
Yeah.
that.
Okay, I'll send it to you. Yeah, he was driving, and that's a long ride, and I just think it was a car accident. So
Yeah.
want to send to you. So, all right, we'll be up for this Sunday. So the link and resend that out so we can um see how you go about just seeing what surprises you have for us.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun because um this past year was really all about the hip hop, man. It was all about hip hop. So I was hip hopped out this whole year. You know what I mean? So this is gonna be like a little change, get into some good jazz.
Yeah, the young man's
Like I
name.
always say, my dad raised me on funk and fusion jazz and stuff, so
Mhm.
it's in me. So
Yeah,
we're gonna have
young man's name was Damon Osborne. He lived in West Orange, and he was in a car accident, um, in on the I-70 Turnpike, um, and he near Kansas City. So I'll send you the story. He lived in
He
West
lived in West
Orange.
Orange.
Rest in peace, Damon Osborne. Rest in power.
Yeah.
Word.
I don't know what happened,
That's
y'all.
it.
I got zapped right in the middle of announcing Sekou's
Yeah, you
son.
froze up.
Yeah.
I know. I just didn't know. My whole thing shut down. It went
Oh, wow.
black. I don't know what that's about. I'm gonna just, I'm not gonna dismiss that. It was possibly somebody else or something else, right? But Sekou Odinga is one of the baddest black men of his generation, right? We can't talk about the liberation of Assata Shakur without talking about Sekou Odinga. We can't talk about the emergence of the Black Panther Party in New York State without Sekou Odinga. He was indeed one of our greatest warriors, and I was proud to know him and have worked with him. In fact, a dear comrade who's from our generation, Decree Siddiqui. Decree was with me in the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee. She was our chair for a minute. They married. Sekou came out of prison. They married, and that sister, by virtue of her commitment, helped give that brother in his golden years, through all the pain that he's been through, right? Some real support, love, and honor that he was long overdue by virtue of what happened to him. So I just want to really this is a big one. This is a big one for us, y'all. We got 79 years from the warrior, but we got to bear witness. We were all selfish. We didn't want to let him go. But to a lot of we return, to allow we from, and to a lot of we return. He's one of our greatest warriors. Loved him dear.
Rest in power. Definitely. Also, I gotta apologize. I didn't come on last week, but with everything that was going on, losing the brother Hassan Sharif, man, that there was no reason for me to be coming on talking about rap music, hip hop, anything like that. It was too deep, man. That was such a huge blow to the whole community, man. To the whole community, and even some of my friends who are no longer in Newark, who moved out of Newark and they down south or wherever now, they got word of it, man, and it was heavy. It was heavy. That brother touched a lot of people in the community, man. We've seen his face all the time, and that was a huge loss for everybody.
He was doing everything he was supposed to.
He
was supposed to. He was a goody man. He wasn't just any man. He was a goody man about our people, about honoring the tradition that came through that building.
That's right.
Right, and reclaiming that. Right, very proud of that man.
Yeah.
24 is coming in heavy.
Man.
And we ain't even started banging with these crazy ass crackers yet, but that's coming too. Get ready.
It's 12 days in.
Well, listen, y'all, we've come to the end of the show. Y'all got a couple of announcements. I'm going to go ahead and make them. But we definitely want to say thank you to this sister who wished us, a happy new year. We want to say happy new year to you, Dolly Ridgway. Thank you very much for tuning in and checking out the show. We wish you a happy and God-blessed happy new year. And of course, by God's will and permission, we show up here every week to try to keep our family, our community, and our people informed with what's happening, not only in the community, locally and nationally, but we try to keep y'all updated. And as my brother Zaid always likes to say, no matter where y'all are, we'll catch y'all somewhere, and we'll update y'all. But I'm gonna let, if y'all got any final words y'all want to say, Donna, you can go first.
I'm going to just turn everything over to DJ Rhino. All roads leads to the winter cookout with DJ Rhino on this Sunday, January 14th, which is also my oldest niece's birthday. Happy birthday, Niecey Pooh. My Niecey Pooh Letitia. So, Rhino, what's going on this Sunday?
Sunday, Jazz going to be the Jazz Winter Cookout. Check me. You can check me at 6 p.m. But really, just go to twitch.tv starting at 11 a.m. and however long you can hang out, just hang out, because this is happening all day. It's going to be 8 DJs all day, jazz all day. different kinds of jazz, different eras, level. It's going to be crazy. Just check us out. I'll be there. I'll be on at 2 p.m. You can check me at 2 p.m. And that'll be Sunday. Then tomorrow, my regular time, 3 p.m. Same spot, twitch.tv/Rhino CMZ for the shakeup.
And I'll be very quick. Monday is the 95th birth anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King. We'll be in the streets at 2 o'clock to commemorate that warrior's life. It's ironic the day you're going to come on and do some jazz, I got to do a janaza for one of our greatest freedom fighters, which also happens to fall on, dig this now, the birthday of none other than Sundiata Acoli, right? Can't make this up. Right, so we got Sundiata's birthday, and Sundiata was not supposed to see the light of day, but we got both of them out. See, because we live by the mantra "never give up." Understand? So we love to say cool, and all the great warriors of his tradition, of our tradition, right? His janaza's on the 14th. Happy birthday! It'll be 87. For Sundiata, 87. And, of course, it'd be 95 for Dr. King on Monday. Keep it in the streets.
Well, there it is, y'all. We want to say thank you to everybody for tuning in. Of course, to All Politics Are Local.
I won't be here next week. I meant to say that. I'm sorry. I won't be here next week. Shout out to ICC, Ironbound Community Corporation. They're doing their MLK program, and they want me to be one of the main events. So that's going to be at 6 o'clock. Right? So I'm going to miss y'all next week.
All right. Well, we want to say thank you to all of our guests, everyone who came on tonight. Zaid, you want to thank some of those folks personally?
Oh, yeah. Felicia Simmons and Elorm Ocansey, repping for the Whitesboro Historic Preservation Project, but also for their young leadership on a lot of fronts, and particularly most recently in the passing of the Seabrooks Washington Mental Health Crisis Bill that we fought for in the name of Najee Seabrooks and Andrew Washington. We've had that story here in a very loaded way on All Politics Are Local. The governor signed the bill today, right? And that law is in effect. So, we carry on the tradition, and salute to those young people trying to lift up an underappreciated legacy surrounded by the red of reactionary.
And then Erica and Steve with the Hand in Hand program.
And then, of course, we thank the congressman for coming through and doing an abbreviated version of the Payne report, and sound like he ready to get ready for this race war that look like he's predicting is going to happen. You know what I mean?
Who would have thought that one Congressman Donald Payne Jr. be telling folks to get their guns?
Yeah.
That's what time it is.
I thought that was interesting. So we thank brother for coming on and do a show. And then, of course, we thank, our council president, who we are extremely proud of, and thank her for coming through and, spending some time with us, and congratulations to her. And of course, all of those folks who, had something to do with passing that bill to help all those young people step into, this world of politics and really, this is life to me. So, it opens up a whole nother world for them to have something to say about what's going on in their lives. So we thank all of those young people, for coming down to City Hall, and we thank the council. And of course, we thank our mayor, right? And for his leadership in our city. So, of course, y'all know next week is the mayor's forum.
Thank Brother Conrad, too. Did we say thank you to Conrad?
Oh, yeah, Conrad. Yeah.
You muted yourself.
Yeah, we want to thank Brother Conrad. He was in the airport, and so he definitely tuned in, and him and John had, as usual, a lively conversation. So we appreciate them for coming through.
I tried to stay out of it. Then he started messing with Malcolm. I had to jump in.
Yeah, I saw that. So we want to put this up. Somebody just sent that in Monday, June 15th. 2 p.m. meeting at the intersection of
At the Dr. King Monument, not the Lincoln Monument, the Dr. King Monument.
Yeah. So make sure they get that right so y'all don't show up in the wrong place.
A block
So
off.
thank you. So we thank everybody for coming through. Until next week, of course, the Mayor's Forum. As my brother Zaid used to say, we'll catch them where, Zaid?
In the whirlwind.
Catch y'all in the
And you don't stop.